Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
All right, folks, we're back. And as I promised you on this 1 year birthday, again, we are 1 year old, just like a little baby infant, and we've learned to walk, and we've said a couple of words. So now next year we're on to bigger and better things. But today, as I said, Randy Hales is on here. Randy, what's going on?
Hey, Wolfie, I'm going to start this program, and I am going to shock you because I'm going to ask you a question, and you can't answer the question unless you've been stalking my social media. You will not believe, as I do this recording right now, you will not believe where I am. You will never guess in a million years.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. Can you give me some sort of clue? Can we play a game with this?
Yes.
Because I am doing something that most wrestlers used to do all the time. You did. Jamie Dundee didn't do. Bill Dundee did do. Jerry Lawler didn't do. Jeff Jarrett does do. Where am I right now?
Oh, my God. Randy, you're either doing cocaine or you're standing on top of a bridge about to jump. Which is it?
He said Jamie didn't do.
Jamie didn't do it.
Yeah, I said Jamie didn't do this, and certainly we can get into the cocaine and off the bridge a little later on. If you want to go there, I'll go there. However, believe it or not, I am sitting in my hometown of Jonesboro, Arkansas, where my story began. I'm sitting here at the gym. Does that not shock you? I'm at the gym.
Oh, that gym. You're actually in the gym working out.
That's awesome.
Well, actually, I'm outside in the parking lot so I could do this. I'm thinking if I cut a wrestling promo, here's the thing. Lately, my health was a little shady, little diabetes, different things. So I joined the gym, and then so far no weights. Just I walk 5 miles a day, and I swim laps at 5 o'clock in the morning, just trying to stay healthy. But I know that would be shocking to you.
That's awesome.
That is very, very shocking, but that's awesome. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So as I told the people, I've told a lot of my story on here, as well as we've had guests and things like that and talked about their stories. But, obviously the names that pop up during my story, you can't tell my story without saying your name. I can't do it without saying Jamie's name.
Right.
So let's just tell the people I guess where we should start would be, Jerry Jarrett brought us in and used us as undercard heels, a lot of, Shakespeare stuff, but we could work. And then we got let go. We went to Mexico, and then I came back, and I think you were the booker by that point. And then when Jamie came back, you put the straps on us over the Eliminators. What gave you the courage? Because, at first everybody was like, Randy's putting the belts on PG. What the fuck's he thinking? Seriously.
Yeah.
So what gave you the courage or I'm pretty sure I can make these guys get over? I mean, where'd that come from? What did you see?
What I saw is when I wasn't with the company then, when Jerry Jarrett brought you in, I thought you guys just had it. I like personal issues type of stuff. And first of all, with Jamie, the pros and cons, and I'll tell you the pros right now, he knew what he was doing. But the main thing with Jamie, he had that history that I thought that the people would get with. And certainly with you, I think as I started to know you, and you knew the history of Memphis wrestling, and you knew what worked here and what didn't work here, and you wanted it bad. You wanted it more than Jamie because you would do the work, and Jamie would do the work in the ring, but you absolutely wanted it bad. You were a can't miss. I'll tell the quick story a little bit. You said we could throw road stories, and I can tell you the very first road trip we made together, and I was living in Jonesboro, but I was in Nashville or Hendersonville with Randy West, and we were putting the Monday Night Memory show together as far as the video stuff that we had. It was kind of the preview segments to put it together. So I was in Hendersonville. Well, Jamie called me and said, and I was back, but at that point, but I was the assistant booker. Jamie called and said, Wolfie doesn't have a ride. Can he ride with you? And and I said yes. And then he called back and he said, Wolfie's a little leery riding with the office. He said, I told him you won't care if he smoked the Fernum Durnum. And I said, no, absolutely. If he smokes the Fernum Durnum, I'll smoke the Fernum Durnum. I'll protect him. He needs to not see Joe me. So great. Yeah. So that trip, I would think in 30 or 40 years of making these trips, I'm sure you're remembering it too. It was in the middle of an ice storm on a Friday night when he left. To this day, it's the most dangerous trip that we turn a curve on the interstate, and there was big ash trees in the middle of the road. I mean, our life
coated in ice.
It was awful, and it ended up no electricity in Memphis. You ended up going to Tony Williams, Kid Wicked later on in Power Pro, and Spellbinder's house to stay. I went to Lawler's. I had more of an in with Lawler than you do. I don't think he liked you back then. Anyway, he liked me. And so I went to Lawler's. There was no electricity, and I swear to God, it was cold as it could be, but he had sleeping bags, and me and Stacy and Lawler slept in a sleeping bag in front of the fireplace at Lawler's house, then 5190 Walnut Grove Road.
All in the same sleeping bag, Randy?
No, separate sleeping bags. I know. We both have kinky stories to tell. This is purely business. There wasn't goofy going on there at the time. I kind of regret that there was nothing goofy going on, and I can tell. Anyway, we won't go there. But several things just popped in my mind. The next day, so I go to TV. Wolfie gets a ride to TV. He has a ride set up to go back to Nashville later on, because I'm going back to Jonesboro. But the problem was, I guess we're too stupid to figure this out. Not only was there no electric at the motels, there was no electric at the TV show. So they had generator power, but they were wall-to-wall coverage. So it's the only show in history. Just a couple of times from the weather office, they would do a cut-in. So I got my Memphis Memory preview in, but we were all there for nothing. Maybe I directed Dave on the wrestling stuff, but it was a very, very dangerous trip. Do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely. I remember it. Yeah. Like you said, there was nobody on the road. I believe we got stopped once, told we shouldn't be on the road. And we told them we got to be in Memphis in the morning to do TV, and they let us on through. But I think me and you, did we take turns driving? I don't remember. I remember you driving. I don't remember if I did. I feel like I did. But anyway, it was like just so dark. And then all of a sudden there'd be a frozen tree laid across the road, and we'd have to go around it. And a 3.5 hour trip turned into, what was it, like 7 or 8, Randy?
8. Wow. Yeah, it was terrible. And we had one other funny snow trip. We left TV, and it was snowing like heck, and I called Eddie Marlin. I said, are we running to town tonight? He thought I was on drugs. I probably was at the time anyway, but and he said, what are you talking about? I said, I want to know if we're running tonight, and I told him our situation. So he said, no, you're crazy. He said, it's fine. By the time we got, I think, to the 116 mile marker, it started snowing, and by the time we were at the probably the 143, Eddie called, town's canceled, and then Tommy Rich was with us on that trip, and that was an adventure trip as well. Do you remember that one?
I've been with Tommy so many times I can't. Yeah, probably I remember it.
And then Then Jeff had a WWE book, but we wanted to take advantage, and I won't name drop if it's bad feelings or whatever. Your future baby's mama back in the day, and you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. This is before your daughter Casey was born, but you guys and me and Tex Schlesinger and Road Dogg Jesse James, we went out to Jeff's house. He wasn't there, but Jill was. And we, for hours, we slid down that hill on Cumberland Hills Drive. I thought that was fantastic.
Jill, Jeff's ex-wife, who was passed, she was out there with us too. She played. We all played. Everybody but Tex. And what was he, Gideon, later on? He'd never seen snow before. He stayed in the car the whole time. The whole time. Yeah. He was scared of that. And, you know, I'm rambling on just stuff that comes through my mind. But let me answer your question about how did I know. I just knew. And I saw not being pushed. You were having some of the best matches, if not the best match of the card. This had always been a tag team territory, and there had not been a money-drawing babyface tag team since the Fabulous Ones in the mid-'80s. So it's been 10 years. So I knew that was the team. And then when I got the book, I just knew there was no doubt in my mind. And this is what I say. I think what got you over is that 5 or 6 weeks in a row, and this got heat on me, but I had the end game in my mind. 5 or 6 weeks in a row, little bitty old Jamie Dundee, little bitty old Wolfie D, my little bitty Booker, Randy Hales calling what we're doing, 5 weeks in a row, and help me, Perry Saturn and John Cronus, the Eliminators, right? Right.
That, beating them every week, even though you sewed like a son of a gun, they beat you up, you got your hand raised every time, that 5 weeks, that's what got you over. Then, what put you in the spot to draw money was phase number 2. Phase number 2 was the program with Tommy and Doug. That's maybe my favorite. Some of the stuff we did with Mama D and Papa D, and we can talk more about that later.
Going back real quick to the Eliminators, man. Dude, that was by the skin of our teeth, man. You say, we beat them every week and all that. And if you'll recall, they didn't really like that too much. And it was fresh out of Japan and, hell, man. And I remember a couple of times, knowing what was going on, I knew they were disgruntled about their pay and their, where they were living and then getting beat by us all the time. But they liked us. But at the same time, you know how Perry was, and then Cronus, he was just kind of like a little giant puppy, and you never knew, like, are these guys going to take this shit out on us tonight? Because they're already beating the shit out of us, sort of. But are they just going to snap one night?
Yeah, and do you agree with me that initially is what got you over by surviving that?
Yeah, and surviving is a great word, Randy.
Hey, Jimmy, I don't know how much you saw about the early days of PG-13. I'll flat out tell you, personal-wise, Jamie Dundee hadn't is not one of my favorite people in the world, or hadn't been in the world, but as far as a wrestler and as far as a tag team, PG-13 made me look like a genius. They were getting over, their pay increased, but who did it make good? Because my back was to the wall. I had Jerry Lawler come to me and say, hey, Randy, said, I saw a friend of mine, blah, 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 and they were in a bar, and they were saying, they were knocking PG-13. Said, people saying they're too little, they couldn't beat nobody. And I said, yeah, King, but how's business compared to what it was before I started pushing PG? And he had to say, it's up. I said, now, Louisville and Nashville, Memphis was different because it was on Monday nights, and we had to fight the Monday Night Wars eventually. But Louisville, and too, Wolfie, Louisville and Nashville both was doing the best business it had done in like 5, 6, 7 years.
Right.
There's no doubt. And the most over tag team babyface side that we had since, as I said, don't want to repeat myself, but this is a strong statement, Jim. Strong statement. You have to go back to the Fabulous Ones to get a team that was more over as babyfaces than PG-13. You have to.
Wow.
I mean, there's none. I mean, PG-13 was over more than the Rock and Roll was in Memphis, period. I know people say, and I understand that they had a hell of a run in Mid-South. They had a hell of a run in WCW, and they're one of the greatest tag teams in the world. They had a hell of a run in Memphis as heels against PG that we'll get to. But I'm telling you that Rock and Roll was was not the money team. The Fabulous Ones were. The money team in this era of the USWA was PG-13. And again, it made me look brilliant. I just knew it would work, and they did. Neither one of them let me down, and they came through every time.
Hey, check this out. I'm going to bring this up. We're about to talk about two of our friends real quick, because I think you've heard of this. And if you don't want to talk about it, we'll edit it out. But did one of our friends, one of our very good friends, tell you that Ricky said that them putting us over killed Memphis? Have you heard this?
I told you that.
Okay. I thought Doug told me. But anyway, yeah.
No, I told you that Doug told me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, do you think he's
so
really...
go ahead. Let's time out. Let's slow down. So right. And we'll just go ahead and say name. Everybody has to know Ricky. Ricky is Ricky, and Doug tells me we have to know Doug too. Doug knows what can stir me up. This stirred me up because for Ricky Morton to say that what killed the Memphis territory is because Randy Hales had the Rock and Roll put over the PG put over, or Rock and Roll put over PG. See, I'm getting so excited and fired up about this. I'm stuttering and stammering, and I'm excited. He's saying that Ricky Morton said we killed the territory because they had to put over PG-13. It's a bunch of bull. It was the best business. That program was absolutely the best business had done in the Memphis territory in years. And you can throw the Jeff Jarrett in there. You can go Jerry Lawler in it. The main events in that era did the best business in absolutely years. But I 100% see Ricky believing that or saying that. I don't see him believing it. I see him saying that. And I see Doug just getting me fired up. I'm just getting the promo now. My blood pressure, I got to stop and take my medicine, man.
Well, Doug told me, he said, because we're supposed to see, all of us should be together, I think, on September the 11th. I think there's something in the works in Memphis. But so he said, when we see each other, I'm going to put Ricky in front of you, and I'm going to tell him to tell you. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be funny.
Yes.
That'll be funny. Just that,
can you record that somehow?
Well, that'll be a special podcast. It'll be rated double R or some kind of thing. Yeah, that's funny. And I got that with you guys. I got it a lot, but it came to a point probably in the middle of the Rich Gilbert program. I didn't get that anymore. And not every home run we hit with you guys will work. And I can name some, and I don't know if it's something I did. I don't know. It was something you believed in heavy, and I tried to go win it. It just didn't get over. Remember? At one point, Mephisto and Dante.
Right.
And you had great luck in the independence. It just didn't work, and some makeshift teams it didn't work. And also with Techno Team 10,000 or whoever they were, Bill Watt's son, and that thing didn't work. But overall, in a money situation with Rich and Gilbert and with the entire Smoky Mountain program, I'm real proud of that. As proud of that than anything I've ever done in wrestling.
And you know what I can say is that even though on some of those teams you named, I mean, the Gambler and Brick House, the Phantoms,
right,
the Fisto Dante, the Techno team, you know, there was some teams in there that we didn't have classic matches with. We didn't have a classic angle, but we were still able to keep ourselves over enough that when it came time for the right team and the right angle to come along again, we were still at that level.
Jerry Lawler didn't draw a house against his opponents every Monday. You would pretty much guarantee if you booked him against Terry Funk or Austin Idol or Jimmy Valiant or Bill Dundee, he would draw. However, sometimes you just get where you don't have a crew, and it became more difficult to get a crew once the expansion happened of the wrestling business, and certainly the territories were dying, and Memphis was the last surviving territory, and we were basically, we would get talent because they thought it was a stepping stone to the big money, and I completely understood that. Or like Jamie and Wolfie or Doug or Tommy, they were from, or Brian Christopher. Brian Christopher would rather do Memphis TV than Monday Night Raw. He proved that in the Power Pro days. He would come home and get a rare day off. He would, many of TVs be there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then at 1 o'clock catch a plane, and he wasn't getting paid. It was just, he was born to be a Memphis wrestler. And Wolfie, your background growing up watching wrestling, you watched all wrestling, but you grew up watching the Memphis wrestling. You started at a young age, so you were a perfect fit, as was Jamie. And, you know, and I certainly, this is not going to be now, I might cuss Jamie or say something bad about Jamie, but the first time somebody else tells me that you guys didn't draw money, I take that real personal. Personal.
Right.
It's funny. Right. It's because I tell you too, and I agreed with him. We died laughing. Is we said, or he said, Randy's hotter about it than you are about what Ricky said. I started dying laughing.
Of course, Randy is that. That was my baby. You know.
No, I know. I mean, I know what you mean. I just thought it was funny.
And so, Jimmy, here's the deal: the USWA Smoky Mountain program kind of evolved. It evolved into that. The original idea, I tried for Memphis Memories 2 that ran on a Saturday to book Rock and Roll against PG. It might have been Wolfie's idea. I'm not sure, but that's what I wanted to do. And they were in Smoky Mountain. They were doing a taping. It was a Saturday show in Memphis, but the Sunday show, they were available for Memphis. And I knew from the get-go I wanted to go with PG. I wanted to go with Rock and Roll. I wanted PG over. It was in my mind going into that deal, it was going to be a one-shot deal. I was going to get have PG go over, and it would help their credibility, and we would go there. However, Wolfie came to my apartment, and he wanted input on the finish. He more modernized the finish. I think the final part of it, we did what I wanted to do, but Wolfie really added creativity, more of the new modern style. Now it would be from 20 years ago, so it would be the old style, but it was state-of-the-art finish type of thing. I typed up, and I gave it to Mr. Detail, Jim Cornette, and every one of them in that dressing room that day had blank stares. They'd never seen something like that. Certainly getting 5 typewritten pieces of paper with that finish. However, I asked Cornette, I said, man, do you have any dates on these guys? And if you remember this story, there was, he said, yeah, I can give them to you almost every Monday night, every Tuesday night, and every Wednesday night. If you want, very few Saturdays, but every once in a while I can get you on a Saturday. So we'd already given that finish, but I came to you and I said, I came to the group. I said, guys, I just got more dates on the rock and roll. We'll do the finish as planned. Ricky's wife, or future wife, Andrea, was there, and he had asked to involve her as the valet. They were obviously the Hills, and I said, we'll do heat. We'll do a sneak attack, and I don't know if it was paint we did or what we did. I think it was paint.
I think she spray painted yellow on Jamie's back or my back or one of both of us. I don't remember. Yeah,
both of you. But so that guy played that on TV, and that match looked PG Rock and Roll in Louisville at Night to Remember. I mean, it was Jerry Jarrett sat with me in the bleachers watching the match. He had been away in the WWE, and he remembered you guys as the underneath funny tag team, but funny kind of means more money. We kept your personality, but we booked you in a main event way. And so when you guys came out, and I can tell you, and I'm going to let you elaborate and tell Jimmy and your audience after I tell them, but I'm telling them my feelings right there. That music hit. You guys came out, the building set up great. Spotlight was right on you, and you got up on the stage and did your little dance or whatever you did, and it was the most, I'm sure it's one of the most thrilling situations you've ever been in.
Yeah.
As the booker, it was thrilling to me to see that, and Jerry Jarrett's sitting right beside me, and I don't know if I ever told you this, but he said he just wasn't too much acting like he was interested. He was getting up to go. I said, no, you got to watch this match. He said, it is. I said, Rock and Roll and PG. And he said, I've seen the Rock and Roll a million times, and I've seen PG. So he was pretty much saying, this ain't going to be anything special. I said, no. I said, you need to sit here and watch this match. And it came through. It was more than what I thought it would be, and I thought it would be great. I thought it would be the match of the night. I didn't necessarily think it would be the match that would be, I think, the best match I ever booked in my life.
Yeah.
The part one of PG and Rock and Roll. But then he was spitting in his cup to Dreadman, and he said, kid, what in the hell have y'all done with PG-13? I said, got him over, boss, got him over. So your feelings on that coming out party, and I would assume you agree with me, that was the real coming out. Couldn't have done it without Tommy and Doug, but the main event level, big-time stars that people still talk about today was because of that match right there.
Yeah, and you know, obviously you could feel the difference of the overness, I guess you'd call it. They believed in us. They wanted us to win really bad. And I think Jamie and I, especially at the end, the one thing that I really remember is when the 3 count hit and we grabbed the belts and we basically are falling down with each other, hugging and so excited. And it was true emotion, obviously, but, an over-the-top true emotion. But I thought we pulled it off so genuinely because, again, I feel that it was genuine that we had just won that really big match that, I met Ricky Morton when I was, like 8 years old. He was at my apartment. So I don't know if I ever told you that story, Randy. I know Jimmy's heard it. And yeah. So, I mean, there was a lot to that, a lot of layers there.
Here's the thing. And I don't talk to Jimmy. Jimmy, this is a difference. This is a different mindset of drawing money and not drawing money, whether it's a wrestler or a booker or whatever. This is the mentality, and this is an old saying, but it's actually absolutely 100% true. And with Jamie and Wolfie, and with me, and with the Rock and Roll, and with those people in that building, every one of them. Here's the saying. It's still real to us, damn it. It's still real to us, damn it. And that's what we portrayed. portrayed it by sitting in the back with Jerry Jarrett, admiring it. They worked their ass off. They're the guys that did it. You can be as brilliant and as creative as you want to, but you have to pass the ball, and they have to run the play, and they have to execute it flawlessly to draw money. And they did. That's just, I get as enthused and passionate about that moment now, Wolfie, than I ever have.
What you say about at a lower level on, you know, some indie shows and some things like that, I've like kind of helped book or helped do my own thing or, you know, stuff like that. And then obviously we couldn't help but to come up with ideas in the car riding together and stuff. But man, just doing like some of the indie stuff, trying to give these guys something that in my head is like, how can they not get this right? Because for me, it would be something that just is second nature, blah, 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 blah. How could you fuck this up? And I don't mean just like a finish. I mean, just how to do the angle and how to get it over and the little things. It was so frustrating to me because it's like, I can't do every part of this and I want to because it would be better. You know what I mean? And you had people that could interpret what you were saying and make it happen, like you said, without flaws. We could execute what the plan was, you know?
I think it was, if you have when you're right people, do you think, and I don't want to knock somebody, but the T.E. Steels or we can go Ken Raper or even people like Gorgeous George III that we put in the situation when Doug's brother Eddie died and had George take Doug's place, and we had some great matches. But we had to, if it wasn't me telling him everything to do, like in a promo or being very detailed in the finish, then it was Tommy, and then it was you and Jamie leading through it.
Right.
Wolfie D was born to be a pro wrestler. Jamie Dundee was too. So I gave you the push. You can give anybody a push. I gave a lot of people pushes that didn't get over.
Yeah.
It's being able to run the play. And so I absolutely, the biggest credit I take with the success of PG and the success, and I think it's a big deal that I was the one that gave you the big plays. You had been given plays. I'm the first person on television that built the company. Everybody knew that you were the guys, but you wouldn't have been the guys long if you wouldn't have executed. I just knew you would execute it. It was not risky. You asked how much guts did it take? It didn't take any guts at all, other than a normal thing. You always knew that if it didn't work, you can be replaced as a booker anytime. So that's why you have to have a good relationship, not have to be friends with. Like I wouldn't friends with Jamie. He drove me nuts, but at the same time, I trusted him. I trusted him with the ball. It wasn't that I distrusted you, and I can guarantee you weren't pushed just because you rode on these strips of me. That wasn't it at all. Yeah. Because my livelihood was at stake. So if I didn't believe that you guys could draw money, or if, say, the first program wouldn't have drawn, I'd say if the Rich Dillon program didn't draw, you would not have probably got the Smoky Mountain program later on.
Yeah.
Because my livelihood and everybody's payoffs, everybody's, even though none of us were making a lot of money, but they were making more money than they were 5 years before in that territory. You guys were doing pretty good. But that's a big responsibility on being on top, because if you don't get that, if you don't draw money, you're not going to be on top very long.
Right. That is a true statement. True statement. Jimmy, I feel like you're leaning back, you're soaking it in, and you got something good for Randy.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Randy, this has just been like I'm the rookie in the back and I'm listening to you guys ride along the roads and maybe we're passing a beer, a little Fernum or whatever. But the funny
about killed me, but the A-class top of the line for them that's not really booked. That about killed me, but that's another story for another day. Go ahead, Jimmy. Yeah, I want to talk to you. If I never need a wrestling announcer, I like your voice. We'll hire your ass, okay?
Well, Randy, that means a lot. Thank you so much for that. That's I'm going to put that as the title of the episode. So
I'll hire your ass. Yeah.
So let me say something. It's a two-parter. It's really simple, though. First of all, I have audio proof that Ricky said something different. So I don't know that what he said to Doug or whatever, I'm not getting into that. But there was on our episode number 5, people can go back. Ricky specifically says PG-13 kept USWA afloat while Jarrett and Lawler were in the WWF. So I'll play the clip on the show when it comes up to this time, but he did say that.
You know, when you keep a territory afloat, and you got to understand, this is after Dundee's gone. This is after Lawler's gone.
Yeah,
I think all them were gone.
Yeah, Lawler and Jeff were on both.
Yeah, they went to WWF, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yes, and it was just us. And see, when you keep a territory afloat like that, that's accomplishing a lot.
Hell yeah.
So whether he disagreed with himself or just didn't want to say it to Wolfie, we'll not get into that. But
you have to send that to me so that when I see him, I can play right there.
Of course I will. You know I will. So the Smoky Mountain USWA feud. I was a kid from around Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia. So Smoky Mountain was my, main choice of wrestling after Crockett, and Smoky Mountain to me, I got to see a lot of the guys locally. I could go to my local high school and see them. What the first part of my question is was there ever going to be something, if the Smoky Mountain had lasted, was there ever going to be the opposite to where USWA would have invaded Smoky Mountain? And also, was there anything planned in that feud that you did not get to, basically, if that makes sense?
Well, First of all, to answer that question, that I said earlier, that wasn't set in my mind that this would be a program. It just evolved. After the first week, Robert Gibson, I think, suggested to me, said, "Hey, man," said, "our referee Mark Curtis is a big wrestling fan, and he loves Memphis, and he would love it if he'll do it for free if he would referee." This was the first PG rock and roll match in Memphis. He said he would love it if he could referee the opening match. He'll do it for free. And then I said, no, we're not going to do that. And he gave me the biggest go to hell look because it just clicked in my head. I said, what we will do, first of all, he will get paid for it. What we will do, we'll announce him as the Smoky Mountain referee. We'll have him screw PG at the end and put him there. So the program evolved from there. We brought in different people, including Tracy Smothers was the big ad. We had Terry Gordy just later on, the Heavenly Body, just on and on and on. So it evolved. Buddy Landell came in. You're exactly right. On the other end, Cornette felt, and I think it might have saved Smoky Mountain. It might have saved it. And Cornette's going in his podcast, and he said he felt I was taking people that had already been over in our territory and incorporated them into this program with people that were over. He felt that the Brian Christophers of the world and the PG-13s and the Richards and the Gilberts, that maybe not so much Tommy because he had the national Atlanta run, but he didn't want to go full force with it. I did an angle where I was a heel and I went to one of their TVs, and I don't know, Jimmy, if you saw it, but I actually sucker punched Mark Curtis and ended up having a match in Knoxville with Mark Curtis. Obviously, he went over, we did one of my favorites, one foot of powder, and he kicked it in my face and scoreboard me. Suddenly, he had called me. He wanted to do Hark and Runners and all kinds of crap, and I called Cornette, and I said, "Are you freaking crazy?" I said, I can have a match that people go crazy with a fight. Doing this wrestling crap and all the stuff he wants to do." So Cornette apologized and that sort of thing. But we brought PG in to a Knoxville show, and one big one was Shawn Michaels, I think, on the card. And Wolfie and Jamie and I made that trip together. They stayed over to work the next night. But so I think it could be successful. So Wolfie, throw that back to you. Do you agree with me that we could have saved that company?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I wanted that so bad. I wanted that to happen so bad, and I hate that it didn't. I'm with you, man. I think it would have worked because, hell, when we went there, we worked Tracy and Dirty White Boy that one time on that big show, and hell, we had heat like a motherfucker, and we ain't even been there. They knew what was going on. I know there wasn't a internet really happening, but I guess maybe word of mouth, something let those fans up there know that the Memphis guys were doing this to our guys down there, and here they come up here, and and we were heavenly bodies, and we were heels, and I wanted to do that so bad because it worked so well for us, and I was on the babyface end taking the ass whooping. I was ready to give one.
Hey, let me ask you another question, because here's a pet peeve of mine. Somebody does it. Somebody's there, and I want you to be honest completely. One of the things maybe Cornette had said on his podcast, and maybe just the fans have assumed it, but when everybody loves the Smoky Mountain, and we'll ask Jimmy what he's heard about this, but one of the things they say, this Smoky Mountain program with USWA was great. Jim Cornette and Randy Hales did a great job of booking that. So I wanted you to set the record straight and tell the viewers, tell Jimmy, tell the world who booked the Smoky Mountain USWA program.
Randy, you did. Unless there was some kind of secret phone calls between you and Cornette that I'm unaware of, that was all you and us, and everybody involved throwing in their ideas, and you mixing it into the casserole and baking the casserole, man.
And it was tasty.
That makes me hot. I think Cornette's brilliant. However. And he did a great job with Smoky Mountain. However, it just, he about killed himself running that Smoky Mountain. He about went broke as well. It was all in to that. Even the very first rock and roll PG-13 match, my idea, and it was a Randy Whoopi collaborative effort about to finish. Nobody else, me and you, unless you guys once. You got in the back, you tweak stuff. I don't think it was tweaked. Do you remember?
I can't.
But it was great stuff. So Jimmy, I'll put you on the spot. Who have you heard was mastermind of that program?
Well, I heard that it was all funneled down from, a Sikh. No, I'm just kidding. Randy Hales. I mean, if we're being honest, everybody knows it's you, brother. I mean, seriously, you got to take the props on that one.
And I was a big believer. Brian Christopher had input in his stuff. Of course, Gary Lawler did. Bill Dundee did. Anybody. I think the worst mistake you can do as a booker, your end game plan, you have to lay out. But if you ignore the talent, if you ignore the guys out there with their ass on the line, shedding blood, if you ignore their ideas, you're hurting your product. So that's one thing that I try now. If somebody pitched something to me stupid, and believe me, I've got stupid ideas pitched to me, then you have to take the responsibility to say, no, we're not doing that. However, in that case, with everybody involved in rock and roll, and now, funny thing is, with rock and roll, I was teenage, early 20s announcer when they had been here before. They left to Louisiana. They come back, and I'm the booker. So I don't know how much credibility I had with them, but they were treated with respect, and quickly they wouldn't have wanted to come back if they didn't make money. We had them guaranteed, and they did make good money, and they were making more money here than they were in Smoky Mountain. So it worked out for all of us, didn't it? Thank you. And Wolfie, to ask you a question, to be the interviewer for just a minute, would you say in your career has gone all over, and you've done new characters and done great with them, but would you say the highlight was that era we're talking about, the Smoky Mountain USWA feud? Was that when you felt you were at your hottest?
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, Jimmy's heard me say this on here a number of times. The Memphis stuff means more to me. Yeah, I worked for WWE a little bit as a sidekick to Farouk, and took some bumps and wrote a rap, and, came back as Slash a few times. They were looking at me, whatever. Worked at WCW, worked in ECW, but man, Memphis is what I grew up on. Working the fairgrounds, when it was still there. I just recently worked there in that new building. It was odd, but just that building, and then Memphis TV and the Coliseum, of course. That means a lot to me, because we were
one of the things
highlight.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that meant a lot to you meant a lot to me too, because basically you were a Nashville boy, but you were a part of a tag team. But when Jeff Jarrett returned from the WWF at the time, and I think this was end of 95, started 96, one of the matches that I booked in Nashville, and we had a hell of a house. To the best of my knowledge, this would have been the first time you were booked in Nashville as a single main event. It was for the Unified World Championship with Jeff Jarrett. Speak of that, if you have any, because that match meant a lot to you, and it meant a lot. It drew money, and it meant a lot to the people of Nashville. And your mama, bless her heart, rest in peace, God rest her soul, she was there cheering you on. That was a magical moment that could just happen in the territory.
Yeah, man, I wish we could find that somewhere on video, man. If it ever was on video, that would be one I like to have. There's a couple out there that I've never seen and probably never will. But yeah, and Randy, I'll be honest with you, I remember that happening. I really don't remember the match all too well, but I do remember it. I remember us building up to it, and it did mean a lot to me. And I don't remember. I know Jeff probably didn't put me over, but I don't remember what the finish was or how we did it or anything like that.
Now that's on me. That's my bad, because I'm sure he was back not for long, and so it was never in my mind to put you over for the sake of Nashville and the pop that would have been. I should have had Randy West ass there with the camera. I should have then put it on TV, and I should have and he would have done it. I should have switched.
That's what I was fixing to say. You think Jeff would have done it at that point?
Yes, absolutely. 100% think he was. Now, I don't know if I censored it. I'm thinking they'll just say the only reason to do that because they ride together. All the silly stuff we had to put up with.
Yeah.
For years, but Jeff understood business and was admiring the fact of how you guys went from a mid-card ha-ha tag team to main event guys, so he was all in. I should have done that. I don't have a lot of regrets, but that's one of them, because I think that would have elevated you. Because at the time, that was right before Brian went full-time, not too far from him going full-time. I just made the wrong call on that, because I think, who knows, that might have extended. No, they would have still brought Larry Burton in. I would have still been pissed off. I would have still quit. And honestly, after I left, they did some stuff with you guys, continue, but it just wasn't the same.
And the thing was there, man, is that because I was going to bring this up earlier, you talk about how when we went from the haha to the main event, the houses came up, the numbers in the books don't lie. People can say what they want, but it also started going down when we went to go be the Nation of Domination and then came back and had to be heels on Memphis TV and doing the whole nation thing. And we're working for ECW and 3 companies at the same time. And honestly, we only worked a few days for the USWA, weekends, ECW, Monday, Raw. And so I'm not saying it's because of us, but that's a pivotal point right there where it did start going down.
Yeah, and it was the same period when you guys came back, because I was, for God's sakes, in the Nation of Domination.
Yes.
Randy X, baby.
X. Here's the thing. I flaked out with some issues. I think somebody said something about cocaine a little earlier, and I talked honestly about it. Sins of the past. But I had to take a leave of absence. Waller took over the book, and I just certainly didn't tell him why I needed it. I said, man, I'm burned out. And I was burned out more than I was burned out. 3 years booking every single week and running the company. I was burned out. I had to get away. But
people realize what kind of work. People don't realize what kind of work that is, Randy. I mean, like you said, you're in towns every night. You're doing a lot of the booking in the car. You're on the phone, at different places. I know we were just getting you had the car phone, didn't use it that often, at home all through the day before you leave for the town, because you went to every town basically. And a lot of bookers didn't do that. I mean, some did, some didn't. But then you're getting the tapes. You're making sure they get mailed to the right TV station in Evansville and Louisville and Nashville, and start it all over again. Start preparing for the next week, because you got 6 days to write another TV. So that's a lot of work.
The point you're making I'm glad you brought it up. The nation and the switching their heels. It wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have flaked out. If I wouldn't have gone away, that would have absolutely 100% never happened. It just wouldn't have happened. And it's sad what ended up in the USWA. Without the USWA, later on, Power Pro wouldn't have started, and you were a part of that. As far as not wrapping up this conversation, but wrapping the USWA, do you have any regrets of anything besides what we just said that we did wrong that might have hurt you guys? Any missteps?
No, I really don't. Of course, I guess if I went back and I looked at every single match and every single interview, I'm sure I could find some things to go, I personally on myself would probably be like, I should have done that different. I should have said that, or I shouldn't have said that in that interview. And quite frankly, sometimes I can look at myself and tell whether I was out all night the night before. So those are right. I don't want to really look at and judge, but it's part of it.
Well, the first thing I would do in my personal life, I would have never done cocaine. Second of all, and this is an absolute two, I would, and we just talked about it. I want to. As the more I talk about it on this long conversation, I'm thinking, damn, I missed the boat here. I missed the boat. But I should have switched that title to you that night in Nashville. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely should have. And with Jeff doing it, there's no doubt in my mind he would have done it. No doubt in my mind. But absolutely. Yeah. It's just was mine. Maybe he figured the decal on the finish, but I said, okay, you over, we'll do a screw. And he figured it. Maybe that's the truth. But he was pretty good, even though he's the owner's son, but he came in for a short run, so he did not try to dictate to me what I was doing at all. So we could have got that done, and so I think the two keys to the success of the run from 94, 95, 96 was two things. The elevation of PG-13. I think that's so important. But you also remember in March the 7th, 1994, for Monday Night Memories, before I even started booking and before PG started the run, the other big step that I did brought Lance Russell back to Memphis.
Yes.
I think that's a huge, huge, huge part. And here's one of my favorite things. We switched one of the greatest things we ever did. Probably a Tommy Rich idea. Certainly he had input in the thing. We had the Hills jump you guys. You were looking for a partner, and we did the deal where you were going to pay Tommy Rich to be your partner. He came out and basically stole money for you. That's one of the most things I'm proud of, folks. If you can find that on YouTube, it was great. But the performance from Lance Russell, even though Tommy was great and PG was great, everybody was great. Lance Russell, this was the key of getting stuff over. And Lance did a little thing after Tommy stole your money, Wolfie. Stole Jamie's money, laughed at you and walked up. And Lance just had the conversation. And I told him the story. I didn't tell him what to say, but I just don't understand this. So I know Tommy Rich since before he even started wrestling. The ironic thing here, he's a good family man. He really is a great husband, and he's a great father, and then raised his voice. But these two young kids that work their butt off and make their money, they can't just afford to just give away money like this when they need help. Good God, I'm just never been as disappointed in my life with somebody. That's how Lance Russell, Jimmy, that's what he brought. I didn't tell him to say that. It was just the gut instinct. And that added the credibility. And another big part of that PG run was Russell. There's no way to not give Lance credit. And I think Wolfie will be one of the first to. I think everybody I've given credit, like Tommy and Doug, great. And I think I like that program better than the Smoky Mountain USWA program because I like family shit and bringing Mama D in, Papa D in, Mama Rich in. It was great stuff. I love that deal. Lance Russell just put us over the top. Do you agree, Wolf?
I agree, man. Some people say Gordon Soley, some people say JR. I say Lance Russell, man. And yes, I grew up on it, but like you said, he had a way. He knew the moves, but he had a way of just making it in layman's terms and hitting those, like you said, pulling on those heartstrings sometimes, or getting mad when he needed to get mad, or feeling frustrated, but always staying, pretty much unbiased. But obviously he would get frustrated with the heels, but that My philosophy real quick, I think, since you grew up in Georgia or in Florida, people watching would say, man, Gordon Soley is my wrestling announcer. Now, the difference is the people growing up in Memphis would say, Lance Russell, he's my friend. That's the difference. Yeah.
They thought he came into their living room via TV every single week, and it was Grandfather Lance, Brother Lance, Uncle Lance. It didn't matter. He was a part of your family. And to me, that's what sets him apart from anybody else. JR's great. A lot of people. Dave Brown is great. I mean,
I was just fixing to say, I feel that there's a thing that, Dave was no Lance. They were a team, though. You know what I'm saying? It's like Gordon Soley was by himself. And you kind of associate King and JR together a little bit, but they were like a little team, man, and they played off each other, and they were like, in fact, Dave's giving you your weather every night, and then you see him on Saturday mornings on wrestling. Like you said, with Lance, he's your friend. So yeah, those guys, man.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a fantastic thing. Man,
Absolutely.
You told me you needed 30 minutes, and I knew with me and you together on this conversation, there's no way we could do it justice in 30 minutes. And I think Jimmy has more stuff he wants to talk about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the USWA ended, and then, a couple months later, you had Power Pro. So from 98 to 2000, in that time frame of Power Pro, the amount of names that you had coming in there to put on some great shows, that this is the first time that I really started, and I know this is backwards, but I had to watch the USWA stuff through tape traders at local shows and stuff like that. But the Power Pro stuff was really where I first picked up on true real-time Memphis wrestling. So just, talk about, I guess, with Power Pro, where do you think it could have gone had it worked out, essentially?
Well, the first thing that I'll admit, and I'll say to you, by the way, in the Power Pro run during the whole time, I was 100% straight. So I don't have any excuses that I was doing silly stuff. I was 100% straight. I'll be completely honest with you. I am a better booker, better creative guy, better announcer, everything than I am a businessman. I think I made choices business-wise that I do regret. And obviously it was a political, we started out basically a house show business, but we had TV revenue. Then when we got the very first WWF developmental area, I don't think I politic, believe it or not. Everybody knows Jim Cornette doesn't politic, but he politics for a long time with the WWF, and I regret I didn't. If I didn't give a shit what they said, they were paying me money. I had a bad attitude to theirs. So the first run of developmental guys in Power Pro, Sean Stasiak and Matt Bloom, who runs the developmental center now, it's Botto here. He did a great job. We had Kurt Angle. We had Daniel Bryan as the American Dragon. I think if there wasn't the firing or the quitting or whatever it was, the Jerry Lawler because of the cat, and I had the choice that I was given, that if I wanted to keep the deal, I couldn't use Jerry Lawler on my television. And it was toward the end of my run or my contract, and I thought Lawler's more value, so I went with Lawler instead. But I think if Power Pro would have continued, I think it was a 3-year deal, and they had plans. TV stations, the lifeblood of their income is the news. They wanted the wrestling studio. That's what killed. Nothing else was deciding. The news people wanted the wrestling studio. That's the true reason it went out. If it didn't go out, you tell me. Because I'm telling you, look at the next era of guys in developmental, don't you, that went to Louisville. They obviously would have been more benefit to do the live TV in Memphis. We'd have had Randy Orton. We'd have had John Cena. We'd have had Batista. It goes on and on and on. So I think where it would have gone, and I think that if I would have got smarter business-wise as a businessman, I think it could still be going today, and with the backing of a AEW or a WWE, I think we would have had that long-term success for sure.
Oh, man.
I'm real proud of the 154 shows, the 3 years we did. We did the only live, remote, in prime time wrestling program in the history of local wrestling in Memphis when we did Rumble on the River at Tom Lee Park downtown, 4th of July, 1998. Again, Wolfie came in. I'm real proud of the stuff that when we debuted him, made it personal. As he came in after I was refusing to put Doug on things. Just so I have fond memories of Power Pro.
Who owns the tape library, if you don't mind me asking?
I do.
Oh,
100%.
Randy, that is amazing. Yeah.
And I've tried to negotiate with the WWE before. I haven't got it done at all. I do a watch party on all my social media, Randy Hales on Facebook and at RB Hales on Twitter. It's a real good looking show. I do Mondays and Tuesdays, the Power Pro show. We're on this next week. It'll be, I think, show number 22, 23, something like that.
That's awesome.
I have fun with that. And I'm very proud of Power Pro, and I'm glad that I was told that you want to talk about Power Pro. I'm very, very, very proud of it.
You should be. It was an amazing product, and I agree. The sky was the limit on that one. You know, to me, there's so much that modern guys could learn from watching that 3 years, those 154 episodes. Seriously, the storytelling, you know, doing so many things. I mean, you had Kurt Angle, you had Rock, you had The Rock, you had the No Eyes, you had the 3-minute warning team before they were that. You know, you had so many great guys coming in there that some are even unfortunately gone now. But those 3 years, you guys, I mean, seriously, it felt like you were almost about to land on the moon, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? You were going to colonize a new company, you know?
I take this. I needed somebody handling the business in. I'm just creative, but to let that person stay away from the creative part. But my philosophy, and I'll see if Wolfie agrees, because this is what I tried to do with Power Pro, and it was about a year in before he came in. That's a long story. Anyway, my philosophy that Power Pro Wrestling was Memphis Wrestling with a new twist. Old school with the new twist was basically my philosophy. Wolfie, do you have any memories of that? Do you think I'm right on that? A new look Memphis Wrestling.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was just a more updated look. I mean, not a whole lot, but I mean, you were trying to take a little bit of the
past.
Old school, the old school less polish. You know, you're trying to polish it up a little bit to make it look more modern.
Right.
Now, Buddy Wayne didn't like my stuff.
Who?
I'll tell you that, Wolfie. Buddy Wayne.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, come on. He didn't like the direction we were given. At times, Bill did not either. But I was watching you're doing a segment that will conclude this about modern wrestling. But here's the thing that I knew watching WCW Nitro, and I knew watching Monday Night Raw and the start of the Attitude Era and all that. It wasn't Granddad's wrestling no more.
Right.
I knew you would have to evolve it. We did a thing with Tony Williams, kid, wicked kind of. Then we'd have him talk about shit and gimmick and old people and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it got over. But yeah, I'm very happy watching these shows back. And Jimmy, it's on my. Why don't you send me a friend request, and you can watch the show on Monday night, and we'll give the inside stuff. The Tuesday show talking Memphis Wrestling with Michael St. John and a couple other guys. Mm-hmm. We had Lance Russell's son, Shane, I guess, on the show last night. It was absolutely fantastic. So, Jimmy, just send me a Facebook request. Follow me on Twitter, and you can watch the stuff.
I love it. I will do that. You know I'll be there for sure. And I really feel like, you know, this leads it in. We always try to go naturally on this show. So with that being said, you know, let's talk about current affairs. DJ, hit the music.
It's a current affair. It's a current affair. Love it in color. It's a current affair.
All right, we're back with current affairs on this very special 1-year birthday episode with one of our golden guests, one of the guests that we've wanted from the start, the third member of PG-13, Mr. Randy Hales. And Randy, again, we thank you so much for being here. To start it out, this question of current affairs, obviously everyone is talking about it. Vince McMahon. So the Vince craziness continues. Basically, allegedly, $12 million to at least 5 to 6 women in hush money to keep, allegations of sexual misconduct and infidelity over last 16 years. Even a female wrestler was involved. And, I don't want to get into too big of a specifics, but do you think he survives this, I guess, Randy? And then talk a little bit about your thoughts of this.
That's a hard question. In 99% of corporate America, he wouldn't survive it. Absolutely. He would have been gone when the first allegation came out. Absolutely 100%. I'm not into the stock market. I'm not into public companies knowing much about it. But what I hear that happens, he still owns 80% of the Class A stock,
right?
Which is the vote, the votes that means the most. He has 80% of it, and probably altogether with the controlling the stock in the votes. So, do I think he survives? I think that, honestly, corporate America, like I said, he wouldn't survive at FedEx. He wouldn't survive at Apple. He absolutely not. And even though this was always the wild, wild west, once you go corporate, it's not wild, wild west. But I really don't think, in the last of Vince McMahon, I think unless the stocks go down, which it hadn't. Now, if the stocks go down, different situation. But right now, I don't think he'll do it himself, say, best off for the company. If I just walk away, I sell my stocks, I do this. I don't think, because this is all he does. Absolutely. He's 76 years old. That's all he's ever done.
Right.
I don't think he'll step down again unless the stock crashes, that I don't see it. If it hadn't happened, it's not going to happen. And I don't see them able to do it themselves. I don't think they can get rid of it. I really don't. Unless it's proven that he's done something illegal, and I'm not seeing anything illegal. Was it bad choices? If some of the stuff's true, like use corrosion, using his power for sexual favors and whatever's out there that I don't know if it's true or not. I absolutely don't know. But if he did do that, then he paid money to have the person go away. Anybody that was hurt in the matter, I hate that. And the fact that people online is, they got money, they got paid. Well, I'm glad they got paid, because that's a traumatic thing. So, it's one of those things. I'd like to hear Wolfie's thoughts on that. And he said at the beginning he wants to shoot with this, the true feelings. And so my feelings is I don't think he's going nowhere, because I don't think it can happen with the stock. I think it's unprofessional. Do I think probably it's time for somebody else to take over? Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I pretty much agree with everything you said. I don't know about the stocks and all that kind of stuff, but again, it's Vince, man. And like the main thing that's happened, from what I understand, and I haven't followed it too closely. I'm not into it like I was Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but he hasn't done anything criminal, and he did pay these people, and they accepted that money. So, I don't know, man.
Right.
Like you said, I ain't condoning shit. I'm just saying it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta say, we're going to go off subject real quick. We're talking about professionally, one of my proudest moments. Jimmy, I'm going to tell you the most emotional and funnest and still affects especially Whoopi today, and that memory will never leave my mind. We had a show in Louisville on a Sunday night, and it was a blow off to the Smoky Mountain USWA thing. Whoopi's lady was pregnant, was having a baby, but this is what a pro this son of a gun is. He met, or I went, maybe went by the hospital and picked him up. We went to Louisville. Frank Morrell.
Well, I drove from somewhere up around where I live now. I drove on the Daniel Boone Parkway I think we were doing Smoky Mountain that night or something. And I drove because their water broke. And I drove from way up there all the way to Nashville in our car, IROC, fucking 100 miles an hour with the flashers on, dropped her off at the hospital. And then I don't know if I picked you up or whatever, but I know some kind of way I sped back to fucking, I guess with you, I don't know. And then you sped back to Louisville and made it. Yeah. And then she was born
and then I remember when we got, here's the thing, and I want everybody to know, some people have it, some people don't. Does it seem a little like maybe the girl, maybe that's why you're not with the girl, because you chose, you were having a baby, but you were booked in the main event of a blow-off program. You wasn't going to miss that for nothing.
Right.
So you did, and we drove 100. I remember calling Lawler and telling Lawler what the house was. It was, about $20,000 on a Sunday afternoon, and I told him, and then I told him about Casey, and he got on the phone and congratulated you for the having the baby, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's funny, all the millions of miles I put on the road, if they say spotlight a trip that will live with you for your whole life. I know I think this humanizes Wolfie to the audience. He sacrificed being there at the hospital in case he was born, but busted his ass, and we busted every law and known to man as far as driving's concerned to get him there. And I walked in the room, so Wolfie, I don't know if you remember that. The first time you saw Casey, I saw Casey.
Right.
I walked in the room.
And I'm gonna go real deep on this to just let people know, because like you said, man, like in today's day and age, most people would not think of doing something like that. They would take their, most of the wrestlers
they'd be crucified. They'd be crucified.
Yeah. And so just recently, within the past year, I'll say, my daughter she knows of that story, and she really has a big resentment towards me for it. And
did I force you to do it, or did you want to do it? Did I make you do it?
No. No, I knew I couldn't miss that. But as I've tried to explain to her, it was a different time, Things were different then, and I was doing what I thought was right. That was how I put food on the table.
Yeah,
and that's what I had to do. Like you said, people paid money to show up for a big match, and they want, because that was a big show. I forget, it wasn't the big Louisville show, but it was a Louisville show that was.
It was a blow off. It was a blow off on the program in Louisville. I drew Memphis. It really did.
Yeah.
Louisville outdrew Memphis. That's how hot we were in Louisville.
And I couldn't no show that, and I knew it.
Right.
And like I said.
Well, I hate it that, and I haven't seen her since the day she was born. Not one time. Things change in life.
Yeah.
Changed. We live in different parts of the world. None of us are one away. So I hadn't. If I ran into her downtown Jonesboro, I wouldn't have known. She doesn't know who I am, because she's probably have watched the tapes. She doesn't know me as an old man. I'm 60 years old.
Yeah.
But I would not know her. Wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah.
That's something I thought was important
for sure.
To say, and a real cool deal. But I like this segment we're doing. This is fun.
Well, okay, cool. So I got one that I want to hear your true and honest opinion on this one. So recently, as we all know, wrestling fans who watch network TV, there has been a very popular TV show on about the young days of the biggest Hollywood star, as we all know, called Young Rock. So, you know, Wolfie and I, we've talked in depth about the USWA scenes. When it was on, I was squinting really hard to see PG-13 somewhere in there, but unfortunately they didn't make it in there. But what were your thoughts of the USWA episodes of the Young Rock?
I didn't watch but one or two of them, to tell you the truth. It's just I'm kind of caught up. I'll watch AEW on Wednesday. I'll watch the big WWE premium events, but I didn't watch much of the deal. So I can tell you that my vivid memories of the time The Rock was in here, Jim Ross was the talent relationship guy, and said, "Hey, Randy," said, "we've signed Dewey Johnson." And back then everybody called him Dewey, and I had known him since he was just a young man in the probably mid 70s, coming to the matches with his dad, Rocky Johnson, and say we've signed Dewey. And I knew Dewey had played football, and I knew that he was athletic, and I knew he was a natural. I've always liked second generation wrestlers. He said, "You have a spot." And we were unofficially developmental. We would work in relationship with the WWF, and I went crazy. I said, "Oh yeah, well, take it." I said, I'll have some hills jumping, and then we'll have Rocky come in and do a father and son team and draw some money." And he said, "Oh no, Randy, you can't do that." I said, "Why can't we do that?" He said, "Vince has a name," and he said that it will be the biggest star in the history of wrestling. Now, it's arguable, but I'll argue on the Rock side, especially mainstream with the movies, he is the biggest star. But Vince had a name, and the name that I was forced to call him, I'll say that in a minute, but I couldn't refer to the fact that he was Rocky Johnson's son or High Chief Peter Mavia's grandson. I couldn't acknowledge that at all. He was just Flex Cavada.
Right.
So I'm just thinking right now, those days, and he was a natural. I'm not saying I knew he'd be the hottest movie star in the world in the Attitude Era, the run he had. I'm not saying that, but I knew he would be a big star someday, just not at that level. But I regret, if you ask me, USWA regret, one of the regrets was I was forced to call freaking The Rock Flex Cavana, and then they saw that it didn't work. I mean, the people didn't click with it, and even though we put him with Bart Sawyer, and they were the USWA Tag Team Champions, and we did give him a push, and he ended up dropping a loser leave town match on TV to Jerry Lawler on his last show. I think we could have done so much more.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear Wolfie's opinion on that.
Man, the first night that me and Jamie were the Cyberpunks and he came in, Union City, Tennessee, you know, this is Rocky Johnson's son, blah, blah, okay. So we're out there, and I'm pretty sure it was one of those no dressing room connected buildings back in the day. And
it was in Kenton, Missouri, Wolf, and I wasn't there.
You sure?
I'm sure, because
okay.
I'll tell the story. If you're not going this way, you called me or Jamie called me when you got back to the motel that night. But still, I'm getting ahead of your story. Go ahead.
Well, just saying, because you thought he was, I'm queuing again. The listeners will have to deal with me snacking. This has been a long episode.
You knew it would be with me, man.
So I lock up with him, and I call something that ended in me hip tossing him, and he, probably tackle drop down, something stupid, and I give him the hip toss, and he puts his right hand on the mat and does like a cartwheel and lands on his back. And I walked over to Jamie and I said, "I thought y'all said this was Rocky Johnson's son." I said, "He's fucking terrible." That's the rib there.
And here's the thing. I guess it was you and not Jamie, because Jamie didn't make a habit of calling me, and I certainly didn't call him a lot. So I guess it was you that called me, and I was at home, and you said, hey, do you got Black Savannah? Do you got Dwayne on TV? I said, yes. He said, you need to change it, and you need to change it quick. He said, he is horrible, and you don't need to put him on your TV. I think, do you remember that, Wolfie?
No. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I just don't recall that part.
Yeah. And I said, well, I have him booked against Tony Falk. It'll be fine. It will be fine.
Yeah.
And again, he did a fine job and got it quick, I thought. Was he great at that time? No, he was not. But I think he was on his way to being great.
Yeah,
right.
Started, I'm sure, none of you at the point, you were a natural. I think Brian Christopher was a natural. Jeff Jarrett was a natural, even though over the years, all three of you progressed, absolutely progressed. All three, two of the guys, Brian and Jeff, second generation wrestlers, and Dwayne is. Wolfie certainly might as well have been a second generation wrestler. He was raised in the thing, but I had every confidence he would be successful in this business for sure. But and I never saw the fact that I didn't see that match, and maybe if I was in attendance and saw that, I might have put him off the TV if it was as bad as you say. And you weren't one to knock. You really weren't. And for you, I was concerned because I think I can't think of another time you called me and told me to take this person off of your TV.
God, I'm awful.
But I'm 100% sure you did that. 100%.
Yeah.
Wolfie D tried to get The Rock banned from television.
I mean, that's the headline right there. Well,
see, you get good shit with me.
Yeah.
You wonder, I'm a little hot now. I'll cut a little program because a big factor in the early days of Wolfie D is me, obviously, because I'm the guy, he's had the words, that had the balls or the guts or whatever to push PG-13 when nobody else had, and I'm the one that put my ass on the line to do that. Then he is, I think we put that in evidence early in the show, Ron. I think that's already in, I think that's already in evidence. Now I am just saying that my feelings are hurt. I cannot believe it, even though he's said to me several different times. We're 50 shows in? What number show is this? Do we know?
This is technically 53, so it's a start of a new, we do it weekly every Monday. So, yeah. So
we're 53 weeks into this dang program, and I'm not important enough to get a show. I have to wait 53 weeks. And I know what you're trying to tell me. You're trying to say we save your story for the last once we establish. I know what you're going to con me on.
It's going to be even better than that. What I'm telling you is now we actually have more listeners than we did at the beginning. So more people are going to hear this. Right. And also we started a YouTube channel where the podcasts go on audio only at first. And now we're starting to add some of our back episodes, kind of like the Cornet still shot, but the whole show on YouTube for people that like to do it there. So we kind of broadened our audience a little bit too. So that's a good thing in regards that they're going to listen to this, and your listeners or my listeners are probably go listen to you, and vice versa. When you tell everybody on your podcast that you were just on my show, and tell them to come listen to me. It's a win for everybody.
Now let's do some business here. Now, I am doing this show. I'm still in this line from an old Jimmy Dean line on Statler Brothers Farewell concert. Jimmy Dean comes out and he said, I am doing this, people, gratis. What that means is I'm doing this for free. Now, then Jimmy Dean then says, now I want you ladies to all remember, I'm doing this gratis and I'm doing this for free, but I want you to remember of course, Jimmy Dean of Jimmy Dean Sausage. I want you to remember the name Jimmy Dean when you ladies go to the grocery store and buy sausage. Now, I don't sell sausage, but I do programs on Mondays and Tuesdays, and I want you, and this is what I would like to, the best bet is Facebook. Randy Hales on Facebook, also on Twitter.
Thank you so much for being a part of the team here today with us, Randy. Obviously, you have an open door to come back at any time, so thank you so much for that. Wolfie, take us out, brother.
Yeah, man, and I'm eating again as I take us out. I'm fixing
That's not very professional.
I'm fixing to cook up something really good to eat because I done worked out once today. I'm going to go again, but I haven't really eaten much, so I'm starving to death. So anyway, folks, thank you for listening to this 1-year birthday of Live and in Color with Wolfie D. We thank Randy Hales so much for being on today. We could go for hours with this stuff, and like we said, he's got an open door to come back and we can talk some more. And I'll probably go on his show very soon, so keep a listen out for that. For Wolfie D, Jimmy Screet, and Randy Hales, this is Wolfie D saying so long. All right, guys, we're back, and as we promised, today we're going to be talking about, we're calling it Hales from the Territories because we got Randy Hales coming on, but we're talking about The Rock's show that he does with Vice, and it's a spinoff of Dark Side of the Ring. Those were all really good, I thought, and since this first episode, it's called, the whole series is called Tales from the Territories, but they cover Memphis on the first one. So I'll probably watch the other ones, but I made it a point really quickly to watch that because I wanted to see what they were going to say. I loved the way they put it together, but without further ado, Randy Hales, welcome again. Second timer, first second timer in the history of Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Now, kind of produce you because to introduce your guest properly, I want you to tell our friends, our viewers, the thing that you had called me several days after the show dropped, and it could have changed since then, but you called me one day. I was on a long Uber trip, and you called me with the good news. So the debut first day listens for my show, my debut. Do you remember what that was, Wolfie D?
And I'm gonna let Jimmy back me up on this because I get all my numbers from him. And so you had the 1 day record. I don't recall what the 1 day number was, but has he since been beaten, Jimmy?
So
I figured Road Dogg would beat me because certainly he has more of a national thing. Now, I think that I have better Memphis stories than he does. All
right, well, hang on. Before you go any further, let's find out the answer to the trivia. Does the record still stand, or
the single day record still stands with 3,681 downloads in a 24-hour period by Randy Hales, but the overall record has been broken by Jake the Snake Roberts in total. So, but
that makes me hot.
The single day record is the one to go with, though, in my opinion.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm hot about is that damn Jake the Snake beat me and Road Dogg both.
Yeah, he did.
He's been around for a while, Randy. I mean, he's Jake the Snake. Fuck.
He did get a bit of a name, didn't he? Yeah.
All right. So, Randy, what was your overall thought of the Tales from the Territory Memphis episode?
Well, I was a fan of Dark Side of the Ring. Most of the episodes they did was just fantastic. So I was very, very excited that they were going to do the Tales from the Territories. And I have watched the very first episode, which was on Memphis and the round table of our guys, Hart and Jeff and Jerry and Jerry Lawler and Dutch. I thought it was great, and we'll get into it. Some things were embellished, especially Jerry Jarrett. It embellished big time, and absolutely every I've heard talk about it, as including Jim Cornette did a podcast about it, and Jerry Jarrett's version of the Spider Al Galento story. That incident with Galento did happen, but this was I've heard the story 100 times.
Yeah, what's the version you've heard?
Yeah,
I heard the version that. And real quickly, Randy, I don't mean to cut you off, but for people that, and you kind of just said the names and stuff. So Jerry Jarrett claimed that he got into a shoot with Galento in the ring, and Galento was hitting him with something, and Jerry pulled his eyeball out, completely out. And that's how Jerry Jarrett told the story on the show. And so Randy has another version. The version I've heard my whole life, basically, is the version that I've heard, and it was a situation that was told on that series, but it's absolutely fantastic. Roy Welch is the person that gave Jerry Jarrett a break, the partner of Nick Gulas, and obviously the grandfather of Robert and Ron Fuller, been around for a long time. He was getting dementia, so he got it in his head that Jerry Jarrett, who was his booker on the Memphis End in Louisville, he got the idea, Roy did, that Jerry Jarrett was trying to steal his territory. Mm-hmm. And so he got a hold of one of the guys that worked for him for many years, that was Spider Al Galento. And so the rumor is that Roy Welch either promised him a job or paid him money, whatever. So at TV, he ended up hitting the ring on a Jerry Lawler-Jerry Jarrett match in the early 70s, mm-hmm. and it ended up where Jerry Jarrett got a club or something, and Lawler tried to help Jarrett, but anyway, they knocked Galento. They screwed Galento up pretty good. That's always been the story. Now, I guess Jerry, thinking he was going to be on national TV for the world to see, he told it in a way that not only people like me that heard the story 100 times, but people like Jerry Lawler that was in the effing ring. Right. That's what I was going to say. Lawler's probably sitting there thinking, that's not, but he can't interject and go, you fucking full of shit, you know?
That's funny.
Yeah, it's just crazy, but I thought for the most part.
Now, is that guy still alive today?
I think he died, right?
I think so.
Okay, because that's another thing. The man's not around to defend the story, so right. Jerry could say what he wanted to, I reckon.
And the guy asked Jarrett at the end, said, so when he died, he didn't have an eye, and Jerry, who made the big deal out of pulling his eye out, and it was rolling around in the ring. And then when the announcer asked, said, so when he died, then he didn't have a ring and have an eye, and Jarrett said, well, that's what I heard. Well, he just said that he tried to kill the guy by pulling his eye out, and then he says that's what he heard. It's crazy. But it was an absolute fantastic, phenomenal show. I really enjoyed it.
I just, as you were telling that, in my crazy head, I could just hear the Benny Hill music playing. And the sound of the eyeball going poop, and then it rolling around the ring. When you said rolling around the ring, and then them like trying to chase it and pick it up like a fumble. Everybody's diving at it.
Yeah, and I just definitely dropped yakety sax right there.
So Wolfie, you had heard. You're younger than me, obviously. You had heard the story in the past. Version of it, right? It wasn't the first time you heard the story, right?
Well, that I recall. When I saw it, I couldn't remember hearing it before. I probably didn't. I can't remember. And there's been so many, times me and you and Frank riding up and down the road, and I'd Frank would be telling some of those older stories. I knew some of those names, Roy Welch, and, a lot of the ones that Frank used to talk about, but I don't retain stories like that. I'm one of those people that I love jokes, but I can never remember them to tell them to somebody.
When you heard that story on Tales from the Territory, and that's a pretty drastic thing to happen, a guy's eye bouncing around the ring. Did you pop when you heard that story?
I mean, of course I did. I always hear about from Wolfie D's stories and other wrestlers that I've known. They're always talking about popping eyeballs, man. It's just like something wrestlers do. And to know not only, he said, I took out my old Sailor Moran training and, I popped his eyeball. The hand is more bones than the forehead. So let him punch me, break his hand, and then pop his eyeball. And I was just like, okay, that sounds awesome. But at the same time, the fact that he actually took the eyeball out, I know a lot of guys have popped eyeballs, but usually they just kind of dangle. Yeah, well, I know you have.
I did that. Randy, do you remember that? I did that to Jamie.
No, I don't remember that.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
And we were at Anita's. We were at Anita's house. Anita was, to those that don't know, Carrie Von Erich's close friend. She was a nurse. Some people have different opinions on her role in his life. I'll just put it like that. But we were staying there with Mike Anthony. And me and Jamie had been out, and I think it was already daylight when we got back in. And for some reason, I don't know, who knows, we got to arguing and about ready to fight. And he was standing on her, she lived in the trailer, and he was standing on those concrete steps, and I'm standing on the grass facing him, and he's facing me. Then all of a sudden, he like leaps at me and punches me and kind of fez presses me all at the same time. Okay. So he's like on top of me, and I don't even think he got another punch off before I just reached up and I put my right thumb in his eye and I felt it go bloop, bloop, and it went right back in. Yeah. But it was immediately black. And obviously he reached up with both hands and grabbed his face. Yeah. And I rolled him over and started dinging him. And he showed up to TV with a big black eye that morning. Man. Do you not remember him showing up to TV with a black eye? And I think me and him that was when me and him broke up that first time. It might have been working against each other. Oh, my God.
Like that might have been an era of time. Was I booking yet?
I don't think so. I really don't, now that I think about that part of it.
I don't think so either. So that's
because you didn't book me and Jamie breaking up.
Gotcha. And that's not something you would have probably ever. You would have come to me and told me you got involved with Jamie and style. You wouldn't have told me that, especially in those days.
Yeah. So this must have been pre that. I don't remember, but it was early on. But yeah, that happened. He showed up with a big black eye.
Not to kind of take it off a different subject, but the one thing that I noticed about the very beginning of this was you kind of see, and I don't know the real Jimmy Hart in this. Jimmy actually is always like, hey, baby, come on down to Hawk's Meat Shop, baby.
That's all I've ever seen. In person and back. And that's all I've ever seen.
And of course, they're talking the pea shooter incident, but I feel like you kind of get to see a glance of the real Jimmy Hart. Am I correct in that, Randy?
I have a different opinion of Jimmy Hart than most people do.
Okay.
I really do. And whether on that show, to me, he was performing just like he always performed. To me, Jimmy Hart, let me clean this up a little bit.
Let it rip, Randy. Tell us how you feel.
Please.
Here's the thing. Jimmy Valiant used to do his promos on Hart, and I think it's the best description at all. And he was doing it working-wise, but shooting-wise, I will say this. Jimmy Hart is a snake in the grass. Absolutely, 100%. All for Jimmy, 100%. No doubt about it. And so that's that. So that's the scoop of the day because, everybody loves Hart. And I understand that. As a talent, he is absolutely great. There's no doubt about it, especially his Memphis work. I'm not so impressed with his WWF work or WCW work, but in Memphis, maybe the best job that anybody's ever done, managing any, leading the hillside of the territory. I mean, he was just phenomenal. But now, do you have the same impression as I do, or were you not around Jimmy Hart much?
I had no real business dealings with him. Around the time that me and Jamie were right at WCW time, somewhere in there were some shows there and some other ones. He was always, and I always felt that too. I mean, I obviously know when someone is one of those people, and he's not the only one, and last of a dying breed that stays in character 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He lives his gimmick, and he's always working. So those type of people, like I said, I ain't had no business dealings with him, so I never had to put that wall up where I go, I know this guy's a worker. He's an old school worker, so let me be on guard with this. You know what I'm saying? I never had that type of interactions with him. It was always, I always laughed because the hey baby, love you baby, all that stuff.
And it's a double whammy with him because he was a pro wrestling guy, but he's also a rock and roll guy. He had the million-selling record and Keep On Dancing and another big hit in Cinnamon Girl. I mean, and so, we've always said we lived our life like rock stars. Well, he lived the life of a rock star and as a wrestling guy, too. So he has the double whammy. And none of us are normal. I mean, if you think for a minute that any of Jimmy talking to you kind of on the outside, not into the business full-time, absolutely full-time, like we were on the road every day, and Wolfie will tell you, and I'm sure you've already figured out, we ain't normal. That's all there is to it. We ain't normal.
No, most of us ain't.
Right.
In our own special ways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with Jimmy Hart, he had immense heat. Obviously, you could put someone with him who needed some heat, and I agree. I think his Memphis run is the reason he's on the Mount Rushmore of managers. But, a lot of people know him from the WWF and the WCW runs, but I just never really saw him outside of the honky baby, yeah baby, oh yeah baby. I've never seen him past that, and to feel like he was talking. Now the funny part is where Jeff was kind of pseudo hosting it. Did you notice that? Jeff's kind of progressing the story,
right?
And Jeff's great at that. But I noticed Jimmy was getting kind of pissed with Jeff. If you notice it, I tried to look for little nuances, and I don't know if there's existing heat there with them, or if it's just something like Jimmy's not the number one talker here. It's actually Jeff talking, and Jimmy was kind of, I don't know, he just kind of looked annoyed every time Jeff would say something to him. Is there any heat there that you all think?
Well, we'll talk about the heat in a minute. I think Jeff, my description of Jimmy Hart, I would think that Jeff would 100% agree, 100% agree with that. I think absolutely, without a doubt. I thought watching that show, and the interesting point that you said about Jeff basically taking over, I think Jeff, obviously, of anybody on that panel, Jerry Jarrett is 80 and Hart is 77, 78, Lawler 73, Dutch is 73. Jeff is in his 50s, and he was the youngest guy there, and also out of everybody, he is more current in the wrestling world and does performing a lot more than any of these other guys. So I think he just felt that he needed to lead this thing or it would go to hell. And I thought he did a great job at doing that. But I think that's why he did it, because he thinks somebody has to get this under control here. And I don't know how much control he got, because his dad ended up I don't know, Jeff was embarrassed by that, about the eyeball story, because, you know, Dutch is making fun of it, Cornette's making fun of it, Lawler's making fun of it. You know, Lawler said on something that I heard him do, and I forgot exactly what it was. He said, "I learned something new," and the host asked, "So what was that?" I learned that Jerry Jarrett is the toughest, meanest son of a bitch in the history of our business. He was going to bite somebody's veins and let them bleed to death, and then forward.
Yeah.
And he pulled his eye out and said that. I was in the ring, didn't even see that. You know, making a joke out of it.
Yeah.
What did Dutch say?
Dutch kind of just said, "Yeah, just crazy story. I'd never heard the story." Everybody would say, "I've never heard that story told that way before."
Yeah.
Not he's a liar.
Right. That's a new one.
Yeah.
But, you know, man, it, like you said, but Jerry's kind of always been a little bit like that anyway. But I also think that now that he's the age that he is, it's gotten worse because he really kind of don't remember. You know, a lot of the guys, when they get this age, what I've noticed doing this show, hell, even talking to Lawler don't remember some shit, man.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah. You could tell.
Yeah, Lawler don't remember. He says it all the time. It was a job to him, and he went and did it and made money at it. But when he went home, he did his other stuff, whether it was a girlfriend or a wife, or whether it was watching the Cleveland Indians or the Browns or whatever. The fact, the wrestling business did not consume Jerry Lawler at all.
Right.
So, there's a lot of things he don't remember. I tell him stuff all the time.
Yeah.
He don't remember. I think he's proud of his career. I'll tell a story real quick, kind of getting away from that show, but this is a tale, and this kind of, to me, is fascinating. I was listening to a sports talk show in August in Jonesboro, and the dude, it was a Jonesboro talk station, the dude was talking to a coach at some type of team on the day they was honoring Elvis Presley because it was the anniversary of his death. And this coach was saying, "Yeah, we were at football practice and there was coaches and there were players and the radio came on and the announcement was the king had died." And everybody, and the coach said, including myself, everybody was crying, was upset, just terrified, because when you said the king, they thought it was Lawler that died.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thought it was Lawler. And this coach was saying, "I hate to say this, and I know me and my team back then was in the minority, but when we found out it was Elvis Presley, we thought, thank God." They were relieved that it was Elvis and not Jerry Lawler. So I called Lawler. Don't talk to him much, but I thought it was a hell of a story, so I called and told Lawler the story. And things like that he loved.
Yeah. You're over.
We can go back and sneak that story in.
That was great, Randy. Thank you. I want to kind of, before we get away from the Jimmy Hart and the Jerry Jarrett, I want to bring this in. Now, they brought up the fact, of course, with the pea shooter guy or the blowgun or whatever, they brought a fan back for what they call extra attention. How many times do you all remember a fan being brought back? Not only that you thumped them out there, but you had to give them a little extra in the back.
Yeah, that's something that probably was over with by the time I got into business. You know, I've told plenty of stories where people jump in and thumping them and shit.
Yeah.
But as far as, you know, I did told you the one time in Louisville, the cops did grab that son of a bitch. And when I turned around, both of one cop had one arm, one had the other. And wham, I hit him. And I mean, they let me, but then they removed him from the venue, the Louisville Gardens. But I've never heard of them delivering anybody anywhere. Randy probably has.
No, I've not. We're taking them in the back. And I heard that story they told in Louisville situation. But I tell you where I've heard the story the most is I've heard Cornette talk about it, that it used to happen in Bill Watts' territory all the time.
Gotcha.
They took them back in the back and that sort of thing. In my experience, you've seen the fans. Now, funny story about this, and when it was over, it was in probably 83 or 84. We ran 2 towns on a Friday night. One of them was Hohenwald, Tennessee, near Jackson. One of them was an outside football stadium in Caruthersville, Missouri. Eddie Marlin went check up in Hohenwald. I went to Caruthersville, and we were at the football field. Well, Randy Savage, Leaping Lanny Poffo, and Angelo Poffo came into town. We were on the football field, so they pulled the car up right outside of the dressing room area, the clubhouse, whatever you call that. They were parked there. So pretty much in public. So the bell rang for the match, and here came Savage, Poffo, and his brother, and they were coming out. Well, as soon as they came out, Randy car, I'm having a brain freeze of his car. Tell me a fancy car.
Lincoln Cadillac. Lincoln Cadillac.
No,
like 80s?
Corvette.
70s, a big thing. They still have Mercedes.
Mercedes. All right.
This was the old one. But Randy came out of that dressing room, and some kid, high school kid, had climbed up on top of Randy's car, the Mercedes, jumping up and down. So Randy reaches up and body slams him on the ground. Boom, and the fight was over, and the cops got there, whatever. Then later in the night, man, here came, after the match was over, basically the match was ended, here comes tons of police officers. I mean, tons of police officers, and they arrested Randy Savage for slamming the boy. It ended up, Randy's biggest mistake, the kid he body slammed off the car, the mayor of Caruthersville son.
Oh, man.
Son. So he went on, cried to his daddy. His daddy had Savage arrested. Angelo came up to me and said, "We don't have the money for the bail." And I forgot how sure. I think a couple of $1,000. And I remember to this day, even back in '83, it was a hell of a house. It was like $7,600, the gross house. But Angelo said, "If you can loan us the money," and I don't go around normally carrying that type of money, but I was checking up, so I had the money, and so we gave Angelo Poffo the money to bail Savage out of jail, and they returned the money later. But interesting thing, not many of you. I bet there's not one person on this recording right now, and maybe not one person listening to this show that had a part in bailing Randy Savage out of jail.
Yeah.
You're right.
Not a lot of people can say that, Randy.
No, you're exactly right.
I'm kind of proud of that.
Yeah, man.
That's a good one. Hey, Randy, what about now? They included the Lawler getting run over by Eddie Gilbert and the Joe Duke thing. You know, two of the biggest bumps Lawler took, but he got hurt. Was it not for sure that he got hurt on the Duke toss? And then I don't recall if he got hurt with the Eddie run over or not. What's your recollection?
100% the Duke thing.
Yeah.
He got hurt because he took that slam and it was his idea, and he just grabbed the rope on the way out. It slowed his momentum, and he took the bad thing. He had internal bleeding, and it was a big deal. You know, as they covered that story, I thought just watching it again was Joe Duke's promo with the axe.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Almost scared me watching it again. That was terrifying.
Yes.
It really was. That was just so good.
Yeah. It really was. And so believable. What I also liked is they brought out the famous Memphis 4x4 post table that Wolfie's told the story of trying to break. And I don't know if it's the same table. Is it the same table, you think?
Randy. By the time we were doing the PG thing, it was a different table.
But it was damn made exactly alike, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Because I think we eventually destroyed the thing. I think when you talk about the history of Memphis wrestling, I think the Duke deal has to be right up there. That's as memorable as anything. I mean, that really is. Age-wise, Wolfie, you're obviously younger than me. I was ring announcing. Then it was in when that happened was in 1978. Well, hell, I was still in high school in 1978. I was announcing and selling gimmicks and that sort of thing, but that's before I was in the office, obviously. But still, Joe LeDuc, I remember him being a nice guy, super nice guy, but he was one of those scary dudes, boy.
Yeah.
I bet not many fans got mad enough at Joe LeDuc where they might come up to him and knife him in the back, but face to face they wouldn't have messed with him. Do you think, Wolf?
No, that's the thing. I've talked about that a bazillion times, man. The fans, it just sucks because they're not afraid of the heels no more. And, that was so fun. You know what I mean? Having it like that, where you could work somewhere and, not that I was at the beginning a big intimidating guy, but still I could scare little kids and old people. But really just little kids. But you know what I mean? They used to when you go up at them, they back off, but now they jump closer to your face, just begging you to hit them for a lawsuit.
Right.
It's been since July that I've told this, so I think I can get away bragging on us a little bit and bragging on PG and the rock and roll, because it's been a long time since these two son of a guns have asked me back. Anyway, talking about heat, guys, about heat, I think, and I'll let anybody argue with me about this, absolutely you can argue with me. Wolfie's not going to argue with me because he'll agree with it because he was a part of it. But the last time in the Memphis territory that we had a heated angle where the people were willing to go to jail or willing to commit a violent act to help their baby faces, the last time that happened, not only in Memphis, but I think the last time in wrestling it's happened to that degree was Rock and Roll Express, PG-13, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, USWA. Now, I don't want to be like Jerry Jarrett embellishing something like the eye bouncing around the ring. I don't want to do that. But honestly, in my heart, the way I remember it, and it's been a long time, it's been 1995, do the math, people. Am I right, Wolfie? Tell me anything since then that got that kind of heat where the fans not only were mad at the Hills, you can't be mad at the Hills if they're not doing something to somebody they cared about.
Right.
That's the key to it, Jimmy.
Yeah.
You have to care about those baby faces. The people in this territory cared about Wolfie and Jamie. Absolutely. That's why they were so mad. Plus, they were loyal to the promotion. That was a double edge. These guys were not only coming after PG, they were coming after their wrestling. This was their wrestling company, the fans' wrestling company. So the emotion there. So that's a long kind of promo that I just gave. So am I on track or off track? Is that the last time that kind of heat went on?
Yeah, you can't have it like that anymore. Just the way it is, you just can't have it anymore. I mean, that I know of or that I was a part of, it's been nothing like that ever since then.
Yeah.
Hard to make somebody, Jimmy's heard me say it 1,000 times. It's hard to make the fans mad when they know that your job is to make them mad.
Right.
You're just playing a character that's mean and good. Look how good of a job he's doing.
Well, one thing that I saw was cool about this, and this kind of goes exactly with what y'all are saying, is 70% of TVs were tuned to Memphis wrestling. That blew. I mean, that's almost unheard of, especially today in these times. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And Puerto Rico had numbers like that too back in the day.
Sure,
which lets you know in that motherfucking place you talk about fans getting buck ass wild. We ain't even got to go into that. That's legend.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's just different times, and I think it's why people, the fans, like the fact that you guys do the show, and I think you said to me, Wolfie, that you've had a lot of great guests, but the people like to hear. I think actually Doug Gilbert told me that he was talking to you and you were telling him about the early on after the show that I did before it dropped, and you were say you won't ever guess who's done the best download on blah blah blah, and he said he gets a couple of times, and then finally said who, and then he said Randy Hales, and he said, well, that makes sense. He said the people want to hear those kind of stories about that territory because there's not a lot out there.
A lot of people that are Memphis people are listening to this. You know, I was, and not to cut you off, but I was thinking, what do you think, this show, how much we all like it, how much the Memphis fans all liked it? I mean, because I've read everywhere, I haven't heard anybody say anything bad about it, quite frankly, except for the embellishment part or whatever. But that's just that's wrestling too. Right. Let's say the mainstream fan that finds out about this that didn't grow up in Memphis, or maybe one of the other episodes. I'm just saying, Tales from the Territories. The current fan that doesn't know these stories. What do you think they think of this show when they watch it? They think it's all bullshit? Do they go, wow, it was crazy back then? Or, I'd be curious to interview like a group of modern day wrestling fans, if I could have that power to get a group of them together and talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what?
That would be awesome.
You know what I think they would say? What I think they would say after watching that? That, man, that was back in the good old days when there was real. I think they'll watch it. They know what the business is now. I think they would watch it, Wolfie. Obviously, except for the Spider Out thing, all the Joe LeDuc thing, and what we talked about earlier, the PG and the rock and roll thing. That was all a work. It was. But people weren't smart enough, the bottom line. But I think the people would watch now, and I really think they think, man, it was real back then. I think they might say some negative stuff. They might say, man, that looks kind of rinky-dink, 100 people there in that studio or whatever. But, man, they were really fighting. And in our mind, that was the name of the game.
Yeah.
That was the name of the game. You wanted the realism of the thing. The other thing I'd like to say, and I don't have numbers for you, Jimmy, and you're the number guy, and maybe you have researched that the very first of the Tales from the Territories, the Memphis episode that we're reviewing today, I read somewhere where the ratings for that, and this shocked me, but the ratings for that was less than any Dark Side of the Ring they ever did. So rating-wise, it wasn't very successful.
That's what I kind of meant by that. I was like, yes, that's perfect to what I just said. I'm wondering what these current people are thinking, mainstream people, because yes, the numbers that it got are probably all from people like us, Right. But then why would this other generation not want to see the history of wrestling? And let me bring you to this point, because I've said this to on here before. There is, and I've seen it, there is a rift between the younger and the older in this business. and it is real. It's a thing. It's also a real thing in our generation, our real lives. It's also a thing.
Society. It's in society.
So they don't. The one kid, I don't take advice from veterans. The hangman. Okay, these are all just proof, because I've been around a few dressing rooms as of late and things like that. So it's a thing, and that's probably why those ratings would be less, because they think that we're dumb, basically.
Say this, and Wolfie might want to edit this out, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it anyway. Wolfie, as we talked about before, at the Ric Flair retirement show, we were plugging all that thing, and he was on the card, and also he was an agent. And for the most part, ideas that he had and gave to the younger talent, they thought he was full of shit and didn't listen to him.
Yeah.
Did not listen to him. Is that not right, Wolfie?
That's 100% correct.
Now, let me say this. Lawler wasn't on that card. So in Nashville, Tennessee, the person, and I know Jeff Jarrett was on the card, and then we'll get heat. Jeff is a great, great talent and had a hell of a run. But against him, he was the promoter's son here. And I think the fans of Nashville, Tennessee, cared more about Wolfie D than they did Jeff Jarrett. Wow. I really do. I
That's
honestly
awesome.
believe that. And I'm not bullshitting, because I have no reason for that. In a way, obviously, I was a big part of the PG deal, but it's the talent that draws the money. You just give the talent the opportunity, and some hit home runs, some don't. But my point is, a good point you made from the get-go, Wolfie, about the rift between wrestlers, if they do listen. Maybe if they do listen, maybe that Hangman Page, who got injured on the last Dynamite. I don't know if you're aware of that. He took a clothesline, and they got away from it with the shot quick to stop the match. It looked to me like a broken neck. Now, ended up just a concussion, which in this, that's bad, having a concussion. But still, my point is there's so many people out there, the younger talent, they think there's nothing, or Wolfie D, or nothing, whoever. They have great people in Dynamite, in AEW, like Mark Henry's there. He's drawn money. Jerry Lynn is there, and he's a veteran. Billy Gunn. There's so many people, but why they don't listen, I have no idea. But it's a big, big problem. I agree with you 100%. That word rift that you said is a great word. And I think there's a rift between the current wrestling fans compared to the fans. I could give two shits about the current wrestling fans, and I'd fight for the older. If there was a fight between current wrestling fans and older wrestling fans, I know which side of the fence I'd be on. Don't you, Wolfie?
Yeah, everybody's got to take sides. If there's a thing and you're part of it, your group with their opinions are the only ones that matter. Everybody else is stupid, so everybody has to choose sides now.
Yeah, it's true.
Crazy.
Wrestling in a prison. So, Wolfie D, I got to ask first, have you ever wrestled in a prison?
No.
Okay, all right. So, tell me, Randy, have you ever booked or worked or been near a show in a prison?
Yes,
okay.
I have.
Tell us about it.
Funny story, and part of this story leads to I'm sure, one of the most told Randy Hales stories ever. So we were booked on a Tuesday mid-morning at the prison near Louisville, a Kentucky prison, and Jeff Jarrett and Scott Steiner and Frank Morrell was in one car. Me and Bill Dundee was in another car. So we go and you walk into this thing, and they, I think it was Dundee or Frank, obviously say, and I had enough sin, I wasn't going to take it in anyway. Dundee said I taken my gun out of my briefcase. Have you done that to yours? I said, I didn't even bring it, knowing we're going to a prison. But they checked you, they frisked you, the whole 9 yards. I hadn't seen that in my life. So when they walked in, Jeff, the blonde-headed baby face, the prisoners, Jeff was the biggest heel there, pretty much biggest heel there, and they were saying they do things that you can imagine. We're not going to go there, but you can imagine what these prisoners said they like to do to Jeff. You're there. So I was scared to death in that situation. And so, again, the guy with Jeff was what I thought the toughest guy in our crew. I shadowed Scott Steiner everywhere. He went, I went. If I had to go somewhere to talk to somebody in the prison, I took Steiner with me. So I'm going to say, I think this guy through him.
Yeah.
If they do, it'll be a mistake. That led to us getting back to the Louisville Gardens early, and I'm guessing this was like 87 or 88, and we get back, and we're all taking a little nap downstairs in the dressing room, and finally I wake up, and I went upstairs walking around. Frank had got up, and then I was stopped by somebody, and then somebody knocked on the door from the alley, and so Frank said to me, I'll race you. So he had like 100 feet advantage over me, and so I ran trying to catch up, but he got to the door. Later on in the night, I was downstairs, Waller calls me and says, hey, Randy Hales. And he walked up there, and his wife at the time, Paula, was there, and Waller, like he does, he was shaking his head and looking all disappointed. And kind of like the time, Wolfie, that he knocked on our motel room and it smelled like pot. He was disappointed there. But anyway, so he said, I can't believe Frank Morrell is twice as old as you, Beach. I said, he didn't beat me. So we had a return with Waller there. We had in that hallway upstairs a return match with the race. And Dean Hill, or maybe the police officer before Dean, I think that's who it was, Mike Patterson, blew the whistle to start the race. I was ahead, but I saw we were coming to the end of the runway, and so I slowed down. Frank thought I was blowing up and out of gas, so he was looking down, not ahead. He didn't realize we were at the end of the runway. So he put another gear, and he hit the wall, the concrete wall, as hard as he could, and blood shot to the ceiling. He broke his arm. He was out for weeks. That's Waller's favorite Randy Hales story of all time. So you talk.
I remember that. I was there.
I'm sure you've heard the story.
I've heard Frank tell it. I've heard Frank tell about running into that wall at full speed, not knowing it was there.
Yeah. Yeah. He thought he was about to win that race, and boy,
the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah.
I don't have to lie. I don't have to lie about my stories to make them funny. That's a funny story. A guy
that is a great story.
Great story. And I'm not having to make it up like saying that I pulled somebody's eye out of something.
So, okay, well, then this one leads into that one. So, obviously, Dutch is talking about wrestling in prisons with Jeff Jarrett and all this, but then they lead to this. I'd never heard of it in my life. I'm actually happy that this show happened because of that. Was the Lonesome Pine specials, where he and Jeff wrestled in front of a symphony, the Louisville Symphony, and he even claimed that this is the only wrestling match that is in the Smithsonian as a whole. Do you remember seeing this? Or
I remember seeing it when it first came on, and Do you recall what they said? What year that was? Because I'm trying to think. Was I in the business yet, or I was on the cusp of getting?
I'm thinking it had to be 90, 91, or 92. I was mad at Jared.
So I had just gotten in the business.
I was gone.
Yeah, I had just gotten in the business, still working the Outlaws, hadn't quite made it to Memphis yet. Yeah. And I remember seeing that, and I remember wanting to throw up. It was, I thought, I hated it. It was exposing the business. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't stand it, man. I hate it. And now watching it, I get it. It's art, but and nobody would probably bat an eye if you did that today.
Oh, no.
But then it was like, to me, still, I was like cringed.
Yeah.
The tag team back, and I think Dundee had trained. You remember Beauty and the Beast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Tag team Beauty and the Mark Gouline and
Terry.
Terrence Sims was his real name. Anyway, Dundee had booked them, and they talked about that Mark or Gouline, I think, or maybe it was Cornette. I might be being mixed up with hearing Cornette's review of this thing. By the way, our show today is more fun than the Cornette thing, but he talked about that. Mark Gouline was the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, and he actually is the one that set up the deal. And the orchestra, he played an instrument, so the dude that got hit with the drums was a wrestler, a pro wrestler.
Okay.
That part.
Gotcha. Okay, that's a good little bit of information right there. I like that. So we saw that, and that was obviously probably on the local PBS and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it leads in from that, and it takes a commercial break. And I know we're not going to totally do a play-by-play on this, but the thing that I'm most excited about, and we always try to talk about them every once in a while, is ribs. And this one obviously brought up the Jackie Fargo was the king of ribs, and obviously the famous Jonesboro, Arkansas Tiger Balm story. So any light on this story?
I've just heard it a million times. Absolutely. I think it's just one of those harmless ribs, and the Jerry Jarrett and Tojo thought they were going to outsmart Fargo. Lawler stooged it off because that was his ride that night back to Memphis, and so Fargo got his revenge. And Tojo, I'll make this suggestion to you guys and to the viewers: if you can search, Jerry Lawler talks to Tojo Yamamoto about Jackie Fargo rib. On the Jerry Lawler show back in the 80s, Lawler had Tojo as a guest, and Tojo telling that story is the funniest thing I believe I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it is classic. See if you can find it. Not only Wolfie, you two, Jimmy, and our audience, anybody listening today, see if you can find it on YouTube, because it is a classic thing.
Remember the time when we were wrestling in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and Jackie Fargo was on the card, and this is something I don't know if a lot of people realize, but we'd try to have a little fun in the dressing room every night.
There's no good Jackie Fargo. One time wait a minute, I go to the ring, and when I come back, I don't know what, I can't say the word, but when I wear my clothes, I jump up and down, everything. I thought somebody, Jackie Fargo put some hot pepper or something, and I drove from Jonesboro to Nashville, Tennessee, jumping up and down like that in my car. So after that, I find out, Jackie Fargo make me so mad, and I you the instigator.
Okay, what happened? Jackie Fargo went out to wrestle, and you and Jerry Jarrett took some of this. When you have an injury, they have this atomic bomb that you put on a bruise or something, and you guys put that all in Jackie's in his underwear and things like that.
You did. Not me, Laura, not me. I know, because it's tough for Jackie Fargo, because he go in the ring, I see him doing all these things. I said, what's the matter, Jackie Fargo? He said, told you, I think you and Jerry Jarrett put something in my tights. I told Mr. Fargo, no, it was Jerry Jarrett.
But anyway, when you guys went to the ring, he doctored up your clothes, and you guys had to
he doctored real good, because from Jonesboro to Nashville, everything burned. I stopped maybe 50 times to cool off.
So speaking of that, then tell us about your favorite rib, or if somebody says, hey, Randy, you got to know about some ribs. I want to hear a good Randy Hales rib story.
I don't know if it was because it was a different era at all, but I don't know if it was because of the fact that in most of the time I was in the office. I just don't recall many. I think there's one that I remember me personally that Jamie thought was funny, and I damn near fired him for it, and overreacted big time.
Overreacted.
Overreacted, yeah. The deal was I was in a meeting with the general manager of the Louisville Gardens. It was a snow day. It was bad weather outside, but I'm talking business. I think I was trying to renegotiate the rent or something that I felt was very important. And that dead-gum goofy Jamie went outside and rode up a hard ass snowball and damn near hit the general manager of the Gardens, but hit me right in the head. And my reaction to that, we'll let Wolfie explain that, because I was a little out of control, right, Wolfie?
Randy, you've got to finish this because I don't remember. Keep going. You
don't remember?
No,
Maybe
I swear.
You weren't there. Maybe you were downstairs. So I just thought, because I was getting a little blowed up, so I'm getting a little out of breath. I'm getting fired up, so I was going to let you pay it off. So this goofy son of a gun through and hit me in the head, and then the whole freaking crew watching it, of course, because it wasn't funny, but I didn't think it was funny at the time. They laughed, and right in front of the guy's name, the general manager's name at the time was Al N.T., and he just saw that, and I'm thinking, this guy's thinking right now, the person running the wrestling company that he has in there on Tuesday nights being made a laughing stock by his wrestlers. So I did every F-bomb in the world. I'm in a fucking meeting right now. This is fucking important. That's the problem with you, Jamie Dundee. You don't give a fuck about anything about being fucking funny. This is about making money, blah, blah, blah. And I should fire your effing ass right now. I went freaking crazy.
Yeah,
just crazy. Jamie apologized and all that, but I don't think Jamie and I had a relationship after that.
Wow.
I really don't. But I can't believe, Wolfie.
No, man.
Hell, man.
I remember that. Even after you tell it, I can't remember.
Really?
And I'm
classic.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see every bit of it. I can see the look on your face. I can see the look on his. I can see it all.
The snowball exploding.
Yeah.
So I guess that. So would you consider that a rib?
Oh yeah,
of course.
I think that's a great rib. Yeah.
The only time that I can think of a rib ever, and I guess the deal, the race story that I told with Waller acting disappointed, that was a rib on me as well. So the two things I can think of, only ribs I can think of. But how about you, Wolfie? You were around goofy, crazy people. Did Tommy and Rich ever rib you?
Not Tommy would rib me verbally and shit. Just
come on, pussy.
Yeah, it wasn't like he would set me up for pranks or anything like that.
Say it, Wolfie.
I never had. What's that?
Say it.
Oh,
you know,
wake up, pussy, drink his beer. And, but I'll tell you a funny story. Me and Tommy, though, it's not. He would categorize it as I ribbed him, but one of those unintentional ribs. Some kind of way, he was at my house when my apartment in Nashville, where I lived with Casey's mom, and me and him were waiting on Doug to come pick us up. We was either going to Louisville or to Evansville. I can't remember. And I'm not really sure how Tommy got to my house. It's not like he had stayed overnight from the next town or anything. Because his mom and all them lived in Nashville. Some kind of way he got to my apartment, and Doug was picking us up over there by. I lived off Stewart's Ferry, And he was picking us up at the apartment. So anyway, and without saying names and whatnot, but Randy can attest, my ex was wild, man. She would get mad and go crazy and stuff. So it depended on who I was with. And she knew that I was going to the town some kind of way. She found out Tommy was in the apartment. Oh God, y'all are doing this, y'all are doing that, blah 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 blah. I'm like, Tommy, we got to go. She's on her way here. Fucking so my apartment's backed up to the lake, Percy Priest Lake. There was literally like a little trail out of my back. I lived on the bottom floor. You could go out the back and there's a little trail, probably 20 yards, and you were kind of on a little cliff at the edge of the lake. So there was a wooded area, right? So I said, Tommy, we cannot like just walk up through the parking lot and everything. We got to call Doug before we leave my house, because obviously we didn't have cell phones. So we called Doug some kind of way. I don't know how we got Doug to know where we were. It's so crazy how things like this happen without a cell phone. So anyway, we get to, and I forget how long we had to stay there, but I made Tommy walk through the woods. Now, we got our wrestling bags, and Tommy, the most important thing Tommy has is his cooler full of beer and ice. So it's the middle of the summer. Tommy's sweating his fucking ass off, and he's got his bags and his cooler trekking through the fucking woods with me. And I'm not talking the 20 yards. We had to go around the complex, come out at the road there, literally step out of the woods with our bags, his cooler, and then cross Stewart's Ferry Pike over, hope she don't drive by and see us. And there was like a little bar, sports bar that was right there in like a little strip mall, right off the interstate. And so we crossed the street, went into there, and that's where we waited for Doug to pick us up. And Tommy was so fucking mad at me.
I can imagine. Crazy. One thing I know we're doing Hell's on the Territory, and not so much we got away from the review of that show, but it's not really a funny story, but it was a deal that I don't think I'll ever forget this. We were leaving Memphis TV, me and Wolfie, and Tommy had asked for a ride with us. And so he's in the back seat, Wolfie was in the front seat. I was driving, and middle of TV, it started snowing, and it started snowing real bad. So I used the TV station phone to call Eddie, and I said, "Are we running tonight?" He said, "What do you mean, are we running tonight? Are you crazy?" And I said, "Snowing here." And he said, "We're not going to get any snow here." Maybe we did have cell phones, because I remember later on in the trip, because it started snowing. Remember that trip, Wolfie? Me, you, and Tommy, where we got stuck because of semis wrecking. It just took us probably 6 hours to get to Nashville. We had to drop Tommy off at Steve's, and then we got the bright idea. So me, you, your ex, Denise, Brian Armstrong, and Tex Schlesinger, and Jeff was on the road, but we went to Eddie Marlin's and borrowed his snow sled. And we went to Jeff's house, and Jill came out with us too. So that was two Florida boys, Brian Armstrong and Tex had never seen snow in his life, and he wouldn't get out of the car. But me and Wolfie and Denise and
I don't remember her
Jill,
going. I don't remember her being there.
You don't remember? Well, maybe
Jill,
I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, Jill was. I remember Tex, Brian, me, you, Jill. Everybody else pushed out.
You remember Tex staying in the car? He wouldn't do it. He would not do it. But Brian went down the hill.
I think Brian did.
What?
Yeah.
No doubt.
Jill went with us.
That sounds like a blast, actually. So to kind of stay back on the show, and I know I don't really want to stay in the confines of somebody else's show. I want this to be ours, which it is,
And you know what? These are tales from the territories. They're just our tales.
They're your tales. And I love this about this. So, we have a legit person who worked in the office, who worked in the ring, and you are a Memphis historian. And Wolfie, obviously, a legendary Memphis athlete. I mean, to me, we couldn't have a better Tales from the Territories than if you rebooked it on the Vice channel itself. So with that being said, obviously you talked about Randy Savage a little bit earlier, but it did bring up the famous Randy Savage Waffle House story. We love Randy here. He's our, patron saint of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D show. I mean, you talked about bailing Randy Savage out of jail. I don't think the Waffle House story even tops that. But do you have any input?
I think the Waffle House story does top that. I really do. It's a classic story. But here's the deal. Here's the controversy. We have a story going on, and I don't know who to believe or who not to believe. So Dutch went on this show. Dutch has told the story many times. Now, I didn't listen to the YouTube clip, but apparently Rip Rogers has gone on, and he basically has said, I was there. The story that Dutch told was wrong. I saw the whole thing. So there's apparently an argument out there between Rip and Dutch claiming on whose story is right. I have no idea. The story, but I'll be honest with you, I've heard the story 100 times, probably 98 of them by Dutch. So the Dutch version is the story that I've always heard.
Okay.
Always heard it told the way Dutch did. But yeah, that was a classic story. A couple other Savage stories.
What's Rip's? Do you know what Rip's version is?
That the dog biting Savage in the ass and Savage running away, running out. He's saying that didn't happen.
Okay, gotcha.
Here's a story I wasn't there for. It was in Louisville, and it was a time that for a brief period of time, Jarrett had gone into business doing co-promotion stuff. This is before Wolfie's time with, he was doing it with Georgia Championship Wrestling and Ole Anderson. And so we were using some of their talent. Even Gordon Soley was coming doing the television. However, apparently Rip Rogers was ended up getting involved with Savage's ex. And she was there in Louisville, and they ended up hell of a fight between Randy Savage and Rip Rogers in the dressing room in the Louisville Gardens, and the girl tried to interfere and get on Savage's back. Lanny made the save and grabbed her and pulled her off, and then Eddie Marlin's brother, who used to always referee in Louisville, he and the rest of the crew ended up doing the pull apart. So there's heat there between that went way back between Savage and Rip Rogers.
Huh. Gotcha. Okay.
The Dundee story with the Dundee Savage fight, and also the Whoopi Dundee. I'm sure you guys covered that. The knife story and Ripley. So a lot of. I just did a recent show about fights in the Memphis territory, and Dundee was in a few of them. He was in the one with Savage, the one with Whoopi, and then the original member of the Midnight Express, Randy Rose. He was in a argument with him in the dressing room in Louisville, and Dundee pulled a gun on him. So there's it's controversial and some real serious incidents that happen in our territory. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly. And you talk about guns, and that brings me back to the beginning where they talk about handsome Jimmy Valiant brandishing a 44 Magnum. And all I can think of is the Boogie Woogie Man saying, "Do you feel lucky, punk? Well, do you?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was Miss Toad. That was Miss Toad totally.
Okay.
That was in like the early 70s, and Valiant didn't arrive to like September or October of 77. And I think Lawler told the story, and Lawler said, and Jim had his gun. Then the reenactment, they put somebody that looked like Jimmy Valiant. Then I think Hart, and that was before Hart's time too. Hart didn't start in the wrestling business to 79. The Jim that pulled the gun, and that story did happen with, I think it was David Jack Donovan, or maybe that was Spider Al too. I don't remember who that was at the time. I think it was with Spider Al, but Lawler's first ever tag team partner, Jim White. It was not Jimmy Valiant, but Jim White did pull the gun.
Okay. So do you think that was on the show that did that, or they just kind of produced that and brought that in there?
I think it said Jim, and they just assumed Jimmy. And I think Jimmy Hart, a few kind of repeated the story back, even though he wasn't around. And I think he might have said Valiant as well. He was just trying to get some traction off of Lawler's story. And I think he just got it wrong. He wasn't there then when
one
happened.
that they damn sure should have covered that they really want, because a lot of these were in ring, But what about the fucking Larry Burton bullshit? That's some shit right there. How that all went down, and the parties involved, and the shit that happened. And I read what made me think of that. I don't know if you've read it, Randy. If you haven't, I'd like to have your opinion on it. A post by Bill Behrens recently talking about that. It had a photo with Larry Burton with his hand in front of his face, and Bill was saying he never wanted to be photographed, and if that was his real name and all that kind of stuff. I know you hate the sumbitch, but what is the real story that goes along with that, and the tapes and all that shit? Please, that's awesome.
You put me on the spot here because if Jerry Lawler listened to this type of thing. I'm not real comfortable on the record. I will say a little bit, but on the record, I'm just not real comfortable talking about this. But I will say that I was on a leave of absence because the sins of the past went away, and that was the worst thing that to happen. Because at that point, if I was there, this would have never happened. Well, I asked Lawler, I need a leave of absence, blah, 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 I need you to take over. So I went away to get away, moved back to Jonesboro to get my head back together. In the meantime, he had met Burton, and Burton basically sold Lawler on this deal that he was a big Hollywood guy, and he was this and that, and that he could sell the company and find somebody to sell. So on Burton's part, from the get-go, from day one, the purpose was to sell the company. And Burton, as he found a guy in Ohio, I'm trying to think as we go, he found this guy, and he sent paperwork, and he flat out I got subpoenaed. I don't know if you even know this because it was early powerful days. I got subpoenaed and had to go to Ohio to testify. Jerry Jarrett was subpoenaed as well. I 100% thought Burton totally was bogus and total thing. I didn't have anything bad to say about Lawler, but I had a lot to say about Burton. So then they had paperwork that Burton had given them, and say it was in Clarksdale, Mississippi, on January the 3rd. And so they said, and you worked in Clarksdale, and you call bullshit to this story as the second I say something that is not true. So January the 3rd, they said Clarksdale, Mississippi did $15,750. Bullshit, yeah, Wolfie?
I doubt it very seriously.
Okay. So they had asked me to bring my book and books and my records. So they remember $15,750. And this is the paperwork Burton had sent to this guy that was going to buy the company and did buy the company. Selker was his name. So they said, Mr. Hales, will you look in your records and tell me what you have, the city, or you have, and any attendance and any revenue from that night? I said, okay. So I opened up the book. And that would have been 1997. Opened up the book, went to January the 3rd, and remember their paperwork said $15,750. My paperwork, you want to guess?
$1,500.
I had in my, you'll pop at this. What my note said?
What?
Due to an ice storm.
Yeah.
Zero.
Cancel.
It did not run. It did no. And Burton had said that it did almost $16,000. So
yeah,
I gave you, even though I said I'm uncomfortable about it, I gave you a little scoop, right? I gave you a little dirt.
Absolutely.
But see, that would have been a great story to talk about because that's super scandalous, you know. So
yeah.
Anyway, thanks for that little tidbit.
No doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt
the biggest
scandal.
thing to me that pisses me off about it is that there's all the tapes that are missing. There's a whole bunch of shit that I'd really have never seen and would like to see that wasn't on TV, that was only on Randy West's camera.
Yeah.
But so the moral, kids, here is that the fall of Memphis wrestling can be blamed on Randy Hales taking a leave of absence. And the reason, hold on, I'm not finished. Hang on. Randy Hales took a leave of absence, and he took a leave of absence because of some problems, which he said earlier were caused by me, and that I'm to blame for his problems. Therefore, the downfall of Memphis wrestling falls on my hands.
Wolfie D. Yeah. That must have been it.
You know,
well, I take credit.
If that wouldn't have happened, I guarantee you that Channel 5 would have not had that bad experience with the new owner and would have been canceled. And that would have happened. I would have never had Power Pro Wrestling. I would have never had that. So I missed maybe a half a year of payoffs on that deal because it just burdened. They went through Mike Samples as the booker. Who else? Dutch did. Dutch certainly understands the wrestling business, but I think Burton was working for it. Were you here during the Mike Samples, then the Dutch Mantell book and arrow right before the company went out of business, Wolfie?
Yeah. I can't remember how much for each one, but I think mostly. I remember Burton taking us all out. Me, Dutch, Jamie, Glenn Jacobs, Kane. I don't know. There's a few other people. Late at night in Nashville at Morton's Steakhouse. They were already closed, and he called him up. And he was a VIP, and we all had lobster and steak, and we're talking hundreds, if not at about $1,000, probably, maybe more. I don't know, a bill. It's like $100 a plate at least, and that's what I recall. Is that I just thought, man, this dude, he's one of them super con men. A lot of people see these dudes, these true crime dramas and shit like that. I love to watch them. I think the average person that hasn't run into people like that think maybe, God, how does someone like this exist? Yet in our business, we ran across them all the fucking time.
Some of your best friends.
So did you like it? Was it good to you?
Was Burton good to me?
Yeah.
Did I like, bro, hold on. Randy, ask that question where I can hear you one more time.
Back in that time with me gone, did you like Larry Burton?
I'm not going to say that I disliked him because he didn't do anything to me at that time personally. At the age that I was, I didn't really give a shit. I don't know what I thought, whether this ain't good. I probably had that feeling, but I was still working. That's all I cared about. And like I said, he wasn't rude to me. He was the type, he's always cutting up and, trying to be one of the boys pretty much. You know how those dudes are. And that's just what I thought of him. I thought this is another one of those guys.
Do you remember he got in a fight in the E&G room at Channel 5? The only person that ever was punched by Downtown Bruno in his life, Downtown Bruno punched Larry Burton. Do you remember that?
I do remember, but if you know the whole story of how it happened, you can tell it but I do remember it now that you say it.
Oh, I've just heard. I was gone by that time. I think Rush had told Larry Burton that he would referee for free. Bruno got like $40 or $50 to referee, but Bruno had the full-time WWF job, and so Larry Burton told Bruno said, hell, the Bill Rush doesn't cost us any money, and plus is a hell of a lot better referee than you are. So Bruno punched him in the face.
Wow. Wow.
That's that story.
Now, was that old Sailor Moran training?
I'll use a little Sailor Moran shit. Probably so.
So, I mean, honestly, we could go on for hours and hours for this, but I think this is a great ending point for the Hales from the territories. Fellas, do we want to call this a part one? I think this needs to go on.
I think maybe we can call it a recurring series.
I love it. I think that's a great idea. Series. Yeah. And not only were you our first repeat guest, Randy Hales, you'll be the guy that comes back for a third time. So, with that being said, Wolfie D, why don't we bring Randy on for some current affairs? What do you think about that, brother?
All right, let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back with current affairs and Randy Hales. DJ, hit the music.
It's a current affair. It's a current affair. Love it in color. It's a current affair. Love it in color.
All right, we're back with current affairs, and we've got the third member of PG-13. We've got the booker from the USW, the owner of Power Pro Wrestling, Mr. Hales from the territories himself, Randy Hales. Randy, again, thanks so much for being on the show with us. It is a true treat to have you on. I love that you're now going to be a standing, recurring guest on the show. And with that being said, we're going to talk a little current affairs. Now, this one is interesting, and I really thought about this one because I wanted to bring you on and have you answer this one because I needed your input. So recently, as you know, CM Punk, the Elite, whatever they're called, the Bucks and Omega, they had that big fight in the back. And then, of course, even more recently than that, they've had Ric Flair's son-in-law Andrade and Sammy Guevara in a fight. Now, the specifics of that is not really important as much, but basically Andrade is essentially, the rumor is he wants to go back to WWE now that Triple H has taken over, and he wants to get out of his contract with AEW, so he's trying to all these things. Now, whether that's true or not, it doesn't really matter, but basically backstage confrontation happened. What are you thinking, man? Because I feel like Tony Khan needs to gain control of his backstage, essentially. And I guess
the inmates are running the asylum.
Yeah,
that was a statement. I remember Jerry Jarrett saying that was one of the first statement type things I heard in the wrestling business. You can't let the inmates run the asylum. Well, that's exactly what's going on over there. You look at the IR over there, all the guys that are hurt and fighting each other. And I mean, we basically have a fucking independent show with some great production and lighting and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what it's to be. They admittedly, we talked about this earlier, they're not listening to the veterans. They want to do their own thing. And, he's letting it happen. I mean,
right.
And then my point of the IR thing is the longevity of these cats. I mean, they want to defend these stupid fucking moves that mean nothing. You know, they're not used for anything. And now look how many are getting hurt early on, getting hurt. They can't do this. So it's fucking with the product. Yeah. Your matches are having to change. What you're building for is having to change, or this or that, because everybody keeps getting hurt because they're doing stupid shit and they have no guidance because they don't want it.
Absolutely. What do you think, Randy?
What I think is this, and it's funny. Let's take a look at Tony Khan, and he is a non-wrestler, a football guy, and he's the son of a rich guy. But the key to that is a non-wrestler. Then look back in the day at Memphis Wrestling, the person that had success in that had to run dressing rooms, and there was an exception to the rules because since the beginning of time, you had fights in the dressing room. I don't remember the word Wolfie used earlier that we talk about riffs. I don't remember ever having a totally split dressing room. So I think it's two things. I think the major rift between the veteran talent and the established talent, the ex-WWF talent, and guys like Jericho, and there's guys there that know what to do. And like Cornette would say, the independent, the outlaw mud shows. You know, a lot of their talent was outlaw mud shows. It don't click, and it will never click on a national level. You know, I wasn't too concerned about the fact. I think everything goes back to the business that it's run by a person that his version of what the wrestling business is, Tony Khan's version of what the wrestling business is, how was that shaped? I'll tell you how mine was shaped. Mine was shaped by riding down the road with Eddie Marlin, with Tojo Yamamoto, with Jerry Jarrett, with Bill Dundee, with Jerry Jarrett, even with Harley Race, Nick Bockwinkel, riding with everybody. Learned the business that way. Tony learned the business by watching tape after tape, going to ECW shows, and his number one source of what the wrestling business should be is Dave Meltzer. He was a correspondent. He was an avid reader of the Wrestling Observer. So he thinks the wrestling business should be is based on, and I heard him talk about 5-star matches. This match did a 7-star match. Our goal is to do this, do that, do that. That don't mean shit. That don't mean shit. It's about connecting with the audience, and you don't understand that. And I think the fight, whether it was Andrade wanting to get the hell out of there, and I can Sammy, my younger guy, I can see him. I like him as a talent.
Sure.
I think he comes across cocky, and I think he does the style they do now good. I've seen him in exciting stuff, but I think that I wouldn't like him very well. I think independent guys never have had structure. They've never had that one guy that says this is what it's going to be. Now, Wolfie D could have come to me and say, Randy, because he had, say, Randy, he wouldn't say, Randy, that's stupid. He would never say that.
Right.
Because he'd been around a while. He would say, Randy, I was thinking, how about instead of we doing that, if we do it this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, and then I would either say yes, which I would 99% of the time, or I think we don't need to go in that direction. I think let's just go with my plan. And he would say, okay, and that would be it.
Yeah.
He would do it the way it was laid out, or after I said, let's do it your way, he would do it your way. I think totally the number one problem they have Absolutely. And where to go, who knows? It's the corporate world now, and I was in the wild, wild west, man. Wolfie was in the wild, wild west. I've never dealt with corporate wrestling. So HR and all that kind of thing. So who's at fault with Punk and the Bucks and all that? I don't know. I think Tony Khan likes the wrestlers that Dave Meltzer likes. I think that's the biggest problem. He thinks he was basically a fan, a mark, however you want to say it, of Kenny Omega, who I think Dave Meltzer said is the greatest wrestler of all time. Do you see Kenny Omega being a star in Memphis back in the day, Wolfie D?
Not in the capacity that he is now. Maybe, he's a good wrestler and booked as a baby face. I don't mean he would be a giant star, but I mean, he would have been looking like the rest of the baby faces that have come through Memphis that didn't really do a lot,
Yeah, he wouldn't have been a PG-13. He wouldn't have been a Brian Christopher. He wouldn't have been a Jeff Jarrett. He damn sure wouldn't have been a Bill Dundee and Jerry Long. Right? Do you agree on that? So I think this is pretty controversial saying this, and I might have told this story before. Maybe take a little bit of blame. Have I told y'all my Tony Khan story, my personal Khan story?
I don't think so.
No.
Our pro era. He was a kid. He was a teenager, or maybe a senior or a freshman in college. So he was trying to call different wrestling bookers or promoters or whatever. So he calls me, and I don't know why I reacted like this, because back in the day when wrestling was protected, I don't see myself having this conversation. But later on, he said it did happen. So anyway, he said he called and he emailed me a sample WWF TV that he had written. Well, first of all, just somebody said back in those days that the written TV, that would have got heat with me in the first place. But years later, did a Memphis Wrestling tribute night at an AEW show in the Memphis area in South Haven, Mississippi. And they called me Daniels, talent relations guy. Do you know Chris Daniels?
I'm not going to lie to you or the listeners. I had it on mute because I'm eating a bowl of Cookie Crisp, and I did not want to crunch in everyone's ear, but I was listening. And yes, I do know Christopher Daniels.
All right. So I go to this show, and when they asked me to go, they paid me for going to do a meet and greet, that sort of thing. $750 freaking dollars. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
$750. They also asked Brandon, maybe I suggested him to have somebody to ride with, paid Brandon about $300. I said, well, that's pretty, $300 compared to $750, and Brandon has the radio stations to promote the event and all that. So if anybody got $750, should have been Brandon, not me. But anyway, that night, I introduced myself to Tony. I said, he said, I know who you are. You're Randy Hales. And then he said, we've actually talked on the phone. I said, we have? And then he told the whole story, and he called me and wanted me to look at his TV, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking about how I would have reacted back in that thing. And I said, was I a prick to you? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, I probably would have been. I don't know why I wasn't a prick to him. Somebody had a kid calling me, asking me to review a show he famously booked. That would have got heat with me, I would have thought. But anyway, I said, did I cuss you? Was I a prick to you? And he said, were you happy with your money tonight? I said, yes, sir. I said, fantastic. It was great. Thank you very much. I was happy. He said, if you were a prick to me, do you think I would have paid you $750 tonight? I said, oh, I guess I guess certainly you would not have. Who would have thought that young kid that called me that day in 1998, 1999, 2000, something like that, would maybe be the second most powerful guy in the wrestling business? Who would have ever thought it?
You never know, man. You never know. What's that thing? You know, be nice on the way up to everybody because you never know who you pass on the way back down.
Yeah, and I've never had a situation where anything is the better example. I'm with my nephews and my nieces that's younger, but at the age they're getting into the workforce, I tell that story all the time to them that you never know who you're talking to. You never know who you're talking to.
Or who it could one day be.
Yeah, very true. Go ahead.
Let me throw this in. Tony
of course.
recently said, and this is just amazing to me, he just said, I have things up my sleeve, and I swear to our fans of AEW, by the end of this year, for the third year in a row, I will be the Wrestling Observer Booker of the Year. And I think that, guys, Jimmy and Wolfie, I think that sums up the whole conversation.
Yeah.
He is booking for Meltzer. He's in that line of thing, and he's the second most powerful person in the wrestling business. And there's issues with that. That's bottom line.
It's kind of relatable to what you said a few minutes ago. From the beginning, Larry Burton's purpose was to sell the USWA. From the beginning, Tony Khan's purpose is to be the number one booker in Meltzer's mind.
Yeah, that's true.
That's his. Do you think that's his? I've arrived. I mean, he's already arrived, but would that be his, claim to fame, personal accomplishment, championship of his life or something? If he gets that from Meltzer?
Yeah, and it's not just Tony. Tony's the lead head on that thing. But look at the Young Bucks. Do you not think that they're so? And they're a real good team. I'm not knocking them, but the thought process of I am, because they have pretty much a lot of the independents are performing for Meltzer, and they named their finishing move the Meltzer Driver.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Bad.
Absolutely.
You remember back. We always say this back in the day, but really back in the day when you got a hold of those stapled papers together. Have you seen the recent dirt sheet? It was taboo, and you kind of passed them off under the table. Hey, here's this one, and we didn't say. All we really said was this guy's a fucking idiot. He don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can do an entire series on that, and I probably wasted you guys' time and our listeners' time on that, but that's really my philosophy. I think AEW worked in the beginning because for the last however many years since the end of WCW, which was 2001, the end of the territories and all that, and Vince had no competition. I think the fact there's another company is better overall for the boys. I think because they weren't more than one major wrestling company, I think a lot of wrestlers on the independents don't have that second step. Wolfie wrestled in the Outlaws. Am I correct? You were an outlaw wrestler, right?
Yeah.
I was an outlaw ring announcer at one time, so I've been there too. And the next step was Memphis, and the next step was in MCW, WCW, WWF, whatever the fact. So there's a pecking order of where you wanted to be. Now you're on these shows with 20 people. All of a sudden, the people don't have the opportunity that Wolfie did to wrestle in Memphis on Monday and Louisville on Tuesday and Evansville, Indiana on Wednesday, maybe Somerset, Kentucky on Thursday and Tupelo, Mississippi on Friday, and Jonesboro, Nashville, and TV on Saturday, and once a month in Jackson, Tennessee, wrestling 6 or 7 days a week, always twice on Saturdays. They don't have that progression. They go from 20 people at an Outlaw Mud Show to being on TV, on TBS or TNT, on Dynamite without a training school, and then they're doing national TV and they don't know the right things to do, and now that's what we get. And they're in conflict with the veterans like the Jerichos and all the guys, the Punks of the world. I think Jericho probably is more political. He wouldn't have gone on a media scrum and buried Tony Khan. Jericho wouldn't have done that. He's a better businessman than that. He would have just taken the money and go and tried to keep a good relationship and do his stuff the way he wanted to do the stuff. I don't think Jericho would do anything he thought was stupid. At the same time, he wouldn't go on a media scrum and bury the top talent and bury the owner. It's exactly so. I think that company is in bad trouble now. You guys agree?
I do. Yeah.
And I'm just agreeing pretty much with you guys because I haven't been watching as much of it anymore. There for a minute, Jimmy, I kind of watched some of it to try to keep up, but then all the stuff when all the stuff started going down, it's just like, this is a waste of my time. I don't want to sit here and watch this any longer. Yeah. I'll watch the clips and read the story.
Yeah, and if that's happening all around, that's bad trouble for them for sure. So, well, a piece of kind of positive news, I know we talked about AEW here, but this is our final current affair of the day in that the wrestling led. Now, this is a little old, but it's current enough. We haven't addressed it. 2022 is the year of the comeback. Wolfie D has wrestled a couple times. Ric Flair had his last match. Obviously, we've talked about that at length. But on November 27th, 2022, wrestling legend Ricky the Dragon Steamboat will be making his in-ring return at 69 years young for Big Time Wrestling. The show will emanate from Raleigh, North Carolina, and will be dubbed Return of the Dragon. What do y'all think about that one?
Ricky was always in great shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Who's he working with? They said,
they say it's a 6-man tag team match. They don't really have let me see here if I can pull that up. I don't think they've announced anybody. And
I think it's FT. I think it's FTR and Steamboat against somebody.
Okay. Probably some local guys.
Well, I'll just say this that just crossed my mind. Do you think there's any relationship here for him telling Flair no and then coming doing one himself?
That was my next question. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Wolfie D?
Yeah, that's my thoughts on that. It's an eyebrow. I mean, seriously, you tell the guy, no, I won't come do your match, and then a couple months later, you do your own pay-per-view. Fucking, is it a pay-per-view? I mean,
probably on Fight or something. Who knows? On the IWTV or something. Yeah.
I feel like, and I don't know either one of them. Well, met them both, but I don't know them, and I don't know what their relationship is. But to me, that's almost like, hell no, fuck you. I'll go do my own.
Right. Bigger payday. Yeah. Do you think Ricky could garner, we talk about this all the time. Jerry Lawler's final match will be a big deal. I do think Lawler's a little bit too active for him to really truly get that Ric Flair pop, at being that Ric Flair was so far away. Lawler would pretty much need to stop now and then in his 90s come back. You know what I mean? But, somebody like Lawler's last match is going to be huge. We've talked about that before. Hulk Hogan, I don't think can wrestle again. I think he's too far down the pike of not being healthy enough to do it. But those guys, there's so many, Randy Savage's last match, had we known that we had seen it already, it's kind of sad, but he would have garnered a big final match. But is Ricky big enough to garner the same approach as with Ric Flair's last match?
He, to me, he was Ricky the Dragon was one of the best baby faces ever, no doubt.
For sure.
But he had some great people to work with as far as heels, obviously with Flair being his number one, probably. Randy Savage, maybe his number two most memorable stuff. He's gone. So Ricky Steamboat doesn't do pregame hype talks to the Carolina Panthers. Ric Flair does.
Right.
Ricky Steamboat doesn't smoke Mike Tyson weed and promote it, and Ric Flair does. Ricky Steamboat is not mentioned in numerous rap songs and rap videos. Ricky Steamboat is not he's an iconic wrestler.
Absolutely.
But Ric Flair is something just a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
So that to me would be the difference if it didn't do as good.
Right.
Oh, to me, there's no way, with your great example there of what Flair is, the times we live in, it would not do as good. I do not think. Nowhere near as good.
Yeah. And it was kind of like a perfect storm too, because it was SummerSlam weekend. Nashville was a huge growing city. Everybody loves Nashville. And at the same time, Conrad, amount of money that he's putting behind it. I don't know the guys in big time wrestling. I've heard of them before, but apparently they've been around long enough for Ricky Steamboat to trust them with this match. But at the same time, it's not using the moniker of Jim Crockett Promotions, which I still think is weird in Nashville, but we'll get past that. Anyway, but I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. Unless you guys have anything further to add about Ricky's return.
No, man. I don't.
Well, I tell you what, Randy, we promised you earlier, but put yourself over, brother.
I'm not necessarily going to put myself over, but I would like for the people, the listeners of this podcast.
He's already done that for the past 2 hours.
Hey, that ain't fucking nice. That ain't nice at all.
Hey,
I put your ass over too, man.
You're overreacting.
Yeah, Randy, we're glad you're here, buddy. We're happy you're here, man.
All right. See, he's going to get me hot at the end of this damn thing. Anyway, I do shows on my social media. Monday's the Power Pro Wrestling Watch Along. Tuesday is certainly live on all my social media, my Facebook, Randy Hales, my Twitter at RB Hales. Check me out there. But I recently have started a YouTube channel, and I couldn't do Randy Hales for I lost my Randy Hales thing for taking content violation. So I have a new YouTube page, and I want everybody to make sure you subscribe to that channel. It's called The Randall Hales, RANDALL Hales. And certainly some of the archives of my Monday and Tuesday shows are up there, including the ones that I did in July the 19th and July the 26th. I thought it's a combination video and talk format. Wolfie came on, and certainly some of the shows that the two shows I'm the most proud of are those shows. It's now on YouTube, Randall Hales YouTube channel, and just look at the list of videos and the most recent ones, because right before you guys called, I had finished it took me forever to find them, but they're up there. So it's my mission to keep the legacy of Memphis wrestling alive. I love being on this show in July, and love the fact that you called me today, and we will do recurring Hails from the Territory, because what I've had today, I think, is unique and good stories, and me and Wolfie together, we can throw a lot of other. We're not finished yet. They're not going to ring that bell for us yet. We're just going to take a little intermission. We'll be back hopefully within the next several months, and we'll do it again. And I thank you guys for having me on. This has been a blast.
Randy,
yeah, it's been awesome, man. There's nobody better that we could have picked for this episode. So I guess it's so good that we're going to turn it into something else on the fly. We did not discuss this with we didn't discuss this before we came on here, folks. So we just made a decision on air. We called it an audible. We called it in the ring.
There you go. That's what you said we were going to do. That's what you said we were going to do.
My exact words to Jimmy were,
real quick.
I sent him a text, and he's like, "What are we gonna do?" So I texted him back. I said, "We'll call it in the ring, kid." That's awesome.
And that's the thing. If you would have sent me a script, I'd have been horrible. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed this show. And again, call it in the ring, and that's exactly what we did. And to me, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, Wolfie
so
D.
For Jimmy across the street, Randy Hales, this is Wolfie D, and we want to thank you once again for listening to Live and in Color.
This has been a James Rock Street production.